Chapter 33:13. These two people were not suited for business. One was focused on research, cultivation, and matters related to inheritance, while the other was a crooked businessman. Therefore, the two of them only blindly followed the trend and did not know how to predict the market. They spent a lot of effort to get the technical plan of the first-grade automatic medical cauldron, but the sales were getting lower and lower. Just like the Kong family in the past, they only relied on a monopoly to make a fortune. Once the market was impacted, they would suffer losses. Now, Kong Mingming was the same. In terms of crafty ideas, Lu Jinghan might not be his opponent, but in business, even 10 Kong Mingmings would not be enough. Therefore, after the two of them saw the predicament, they turned their attention to the second-grade automatic medical cauldron that had not yet been put on sale. They hoped to make a fortune through the supply of raw materials for the second-grade automatic medical cauldron. However, they had never thought about how big the market for the second-grade automatic medical cauldron was. Or rather, they had misunderstood. They thought that the second-grade automatic medical cauldron was the same as the first-grade automatic medical cauldron. The threshold for using it was very low, and anyone could use it. Therefore, there would definitely be a sales frenzy. Then, should we use the money we earn from the first-grade intelligent medical cauldron to mass-produce the second-grade cauldron? Kong Mingming asked. Yes, when the time comes, the production of the second-grade automatic medical cauldron will not be able to bypass our raw materials. Patriarch Xianxin nodded and said, Since we can't make money from the production and sale of the second-grade automatic medical cauldron, we must seize the raw materials market. Who said we can't sell? Kong Mingming waved his hand and said proudly, Father-in-law, we are raw materials suppliers. When the time comes, we can use this as a bargaining chip to negotiate with Lin Yi. The second-grade automatic medical cauldron produced by Lin Yi must be given to us to sell, and the price must be low. This way, we can directly label it as our Heavenly Elixir Sex second-grade intelligent medical cauldron and sell it. Our customers won't think that we don't have follow-up products and technical support. Oh? That's a good idea. Speaking of which, Zhaoming, you're a business genius. After Patriarch Xianxin heard that, he immediately felt that it made sense. However, he did not come into contact with businesses in the secular world, so he did not know that this kind of labeling was the most common business method. It did not require any business acumen at all. The market could be seen everywhere, but when it came to Kong Mingming, he became a business genius. Haha, it's just a small trick. Although Kong Mingming said so, he looked very proud. You're in charge of following up on this matter. Then you have to hurry up with the matter of the extreme qi gathering pill. Get it and kill that brat Lin Yi, Patriarch Xianxin said. Don't worry, father-in-law. Kong Mingming nodded. However, what Kong Mingming did not expect was that he had made hundreds of second-grade medicine cauldrons, but neither Lin Yi nor Lu Jinghan had shown any intention to buy second-grade medicine cauldrons. Seeing that the Cultivator Trading Association's second-grade automatic medicine cauldrons had begun to be auctioned, and the number was getting lesser and lesser. The sects that bought them were very favorable, but Lu Jinghan did not show any intention to buy more medicine cauldrons. It must be known that Kong Mingming was very clear that Lu Jinghan only had 30 second-grade medicine cauldrons provided by Right Coiling Tiger. She did not have any more. Seeing that they were about to be sold out, why was there no news at all? Could it be that she deliberately kept a low profile, and the purpose was to prevent him from raising the price? However, when there were only 10 second-grade automatic medicine cauldrons left, neither Lin Yi nor Lu Jinghan took the initiative to contact him. This made Kong Mingming very puzzled. How could this business be done like this? There were only 10 left in the inventory. If they did not replenish the stock, did they not want to do business? Moreover, the production still needed a certain amount of time, right? It was impossible to say that the moment you bought the raw materials, you would immediately produce it. Did you think it was an automated production line? However, the production of second-grade automatic medicine cauldrons needed to be handmade. Father-in-law, what do you think Lin Yi is trying to do? Does he want to make a one-time deal and not sell it in the future? Kong Mingming finally could not hold it in any more and went to find Patriarch Xianqian. Patriarch Xuanqian's grasp of the economy was not as good as Kong Mingming, so when he heard Kong Mingming's words, he was immediately a little dumbfounded. Zhao Ming, is it very difficult to produce these second-grade automatic medicine cauldrons? Is Lin Yi thinking of not selling them in the future? That shouldn't be the case. Although this thing is difficult to make, it is also a real money-maker. This money is enough for Lin Yi to build an orphanage. He shouldn't give up. Kong Mingming shook his head and said, Now I am afraid that Lin Yi will produce his own second-grade medicine cauldrons or buy them from other channels. Then, won't our second-grade medicine cauldrons be unable to be sold? That's impossible. Although the difficulty of creating a second-grade cauldron wasn't that high, as long as one had the strength of a heaven-rank yellow-rank third-level alchemist, they would be able to create it. However, how many heaven-rank yellow-rank third-level alchemists were there? Moreover, many of the materials used to make this second-grade medicine cauldron are exclusively controlled by our heavenly elixir sect. They come from the edge of the Five Evils Savage Land. Other sects have no channels to get them. Is it Lin Yi or that Han Jingjing? Or Boss Bai? Even if they can make it, do they have a place to get the materials? That's true. Then Lin Yi probably wants to put on airs. Kong Mingming had just finished speaking when his phone rang. He glanced at it, and saw that it was his big brother, Kong Xiaolong. The hidden house Yu was now wavering because of Lin Yi's strength. They didn't dare to leak information about Lin Yi. However, Kong Xiaolong, who was beside Yu Panhu, didn't have this concern. After he received the news, he called Kong Mingming immediately. Big brother, what's the matter? Kong Mingming asked after picking up the phone. Zhao Ming, listen carefully. Just now, Lin Yi called Yu Panhu and asked if they still have any second-grade medicine cauldrons. Lin Yi wants some, but Yu Panhu's family doesn't have any left. He can only agree to help him think of a way to get one or two. Kong Lalong said. What? Kong Mingming was worried at first, but suddenly heard the good news. He slapped his thigh and said excitedly, That's great, that's great! Big brother, this is very important. Don't worry, if there are benefits in the future, you will definitely get them. Chapter 33:14. Alright, after a while, I'll see what Heavenly Elixir Sect can do in the secular world. I'll let you do it then. Kong Xiaoming had the confidence to do so. He was the son-in-law of Elder Xianqian. It was a piece of cake for him to get a few projects for House Kong. Plus, Kong Xiaolong had done a great job this time as well. After hanging up, the Xianqian ancestor didn't scold Kong Mingming for giving benefits to House Kong on his own. He heard what Aolong said on the phone. Lin Yi had started to buy second-grade cauldrons. However, Lin Yi didn't buy from Heavenly Elixir Sect or Five Elements Sect. Instead, he went to Yu Coiling Tiger. Haha, this Lin Yi, he didn't even think about where House Yu's second-grade cauldrons came from. Isn't it from Heavenly Elixir Sect? As long as we block the source, no matter how powerful Lin Yi is, no matter how wide his connections are, it's all for naught. The Xianqian ancestor breathed a sigh of relief after hearing the news. Therefore, Elder Xianqian and Kong Xiaoming were reassured. They began to mass-produce and hoard second-grade cauldrons. From their point of view, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to monopolize and make a fortune. How could they let it go? However, when there were only 3 left, the Cultivator Trade Association announced that these were the last 3 cauldrons to be auctioned. From now on, this second-grade cauldron would no longer be sold in the market. These 3 cauldrons would be given as gifts to the Dark Palace. Next, they would introduce a new model of the cauldron, but the new model had technical difficulties that had yet to be overcome. The release date was yet to be determined. In other words, these 30 second-grade cauldrons. They would become an out-of-print product in the market. Those cultivators who originally had a dispensable attitude towards this auction were now shocked and regretting their decision. The reason was very simple. They thought to themselves, after these 30 were auctioned, as the number of cauldrons increased, this thing would definitely get cheaper. So they weren't in a hurry. According to the market of first-grade cauldrons, the Heavenly Elixir sect would definitely introduce imitations. At that time, this thing would be worthless. But who would have thought that this thing would become a rare item, and the last 3 were not auctioned off, but given to the Palace of Darkness? What did that mean? Could it be that they couldn't even buy medicine for regret? Indeed, they couldn't buy it, but the Palace of Darkness didn't need 3 at all. 1 was enough, and the other 2 were just Han Jingjing's gifts to Meng Yao. Meng Yao was the publicly acknowledged first wife of Lin Yi, so naturally, Han Jingjing would try to please her. The remaining 2 would be up to Meng Yao to decide who to sell them to. Not only would this help the Palace of Darkness build connections, but it would also create some income for them. Elder Dark Knight, your Palace of Darkness has been developing well recently. We're both from the ancient level, so we should get to know each other. I'll definitely pay you a visit in the next few days. Elder Dark Knight, I heard that your Palace Master Chu's boyfriend is Hero Lin Yi. He's incomparably brave and can instantly kill a peak late-stage heaven rank expert. We're really envious. Yeah. Elder Dark Knight, your Palace of Darkness not only has an inheritor, but also a master like Lin Yi. It'd be hard for you not to develop. The Grand Elder of the Palace of Darkness was here to represent the Palace of Darkness. She didn't want to come, but Meng Yao made her come, so she had to. In fact, Meng Yao knew that Han Jingjing would give her 3 second-rank cauldrons, which was why she asked the Grand Elder to go. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come. But what the Grand Elder didn't know was that the Palace of Darkness wasn't rich, and she couldn't afford a second-rank cauldron. Most importantly, the Grand Elder wasn't very sociable. Although, it wasn't that she wasn't sociable. In the ancient level, strength was everything. If you didn't have strength, and the Palace of Darkness was weak, who would want to talk to you? It was good enough to ignore you. It was good enough that they didn't make sarcastic remarks. That was why the Grand Elder was never willing to participate in these masochistic gatherings. Although she once swore in her heart that she would make the Dark Palace stand at a height that others would fight to please in her lifetime, just like the Heavenly Elixir sect. But, as she grew older, and as time passed, the Grand Elder's dream never changed, but reality made her understand that it was impossible for the Palace of Darkness to catch up. Palace Master Yuan was just a puppet, and she, alone, couldn't change anything. However, all of this changed drastically after Yao became the Palace Lord of the Dark Knight Palace. Of course, the Grand Elder understood that rather than saying that it was Ming Yao's change, it was more because she found a good bodyguard, and that person was Lin Yi. The Grand Elder knew the relationship between Meng Yao and Lin Yi, but she still insisted on making Lin Yi Meng Yao's fiancé, because she saw a bright future for the Palace of Darkness. But even if the Grand Elder was optimistic about the future of the Palace of Darkness, she didn't think that this moment would come so quickly, so suddenly. At this moment, the Grand Elder had a surreal feeling, and he was unable to deal with this situation. Looking at these sect masters and elders who were fawning over him, the Grand Elder had an urge to cry. She did it, she finally did it. Although it wasn't the Grand Elder who did it, it didn't matter. As long as the Palace of Darkness grew, she could die without regrets. The Grand Elder didn't think that Lin Yi's influence would be this big, to be able to make these people act like this. Wasn't it just a second-rank cauldron? In fact, there was also Lin Yi's power. These ancient sects didn't have any grudges with Lin Yi, and other than a few, they didn't want to make enemies with Lin Yi. It didn't matter if Lin Yi could kill him in one shot or not. Anyway, Lin Yi was definitely very strong, so these people didn't want to mess with him if they could. The Grand Elder was busy chatting with these people, but in her heart, she was happy, wishing that this would happen every day. The commotion here, however, made the face of someone on the other side darken. This person was Kong Mingming. He came with Xiao Yi. He thought that after Lin Yi sold all 3 cauldrons, Lin Yi would definitely beg him, Kong Mingming, to order the materials for the cauldrons. Chapter 33:15. For example, leaving Wang Xinyan, returning Wang Xinyan to his brother, taking back Little Yi's heaven-grade weapon, and so on. However, the scene in front of him made Kong Mingming feel like he was struck by lightning. He was dumbfounded and speechless. What? After these 32nd-grade cauldrons were sold out, they wouldn't be selling them anymore? They were going to produce improved products? But they hadn't overcome the technical difficulties? What did this mean? The time to be on the market was unknown? In other words, it was uncertain whether they would be on the market or not. If they didn't overcome the technical difficulties, there would be no second-grade cauldrons to be sold in the future? How could this be? What about the 300 second-grade cauldrons he had just made in his house? Who were they going to sell them to? Little Yi's breathing was also very rapid. He knew very well that he and Ancestor Xianqin were bound together for good or ill. If Ancestor Xianqin and Kang Xiaoming's second-grade cauldrons couldn't be sold, then what would happen? Brother Kang, Little Yi took a deep breath and turned to look at Kang Mingming. Don't panic! Kang Mingming forced himself to calm down and said, Lin Yi must need a second-grade cauldron. Otherwise, why would he call the Hidden Right family to ask? Although there are technical difficulties to overcome for the second-grade cauldrons he made, the raw materials are second-grade cauldrons. Moreover, Lin Yi is not stupid. If he really couldn't overcome the technical difficulties, would he be stupid enough to give up this market? Obviously not. I don't believe that Lin Yi would be so stupid. He will definitely continue to make the current second-grade cauldrons. So, our second-grade cauldrons won't be left no matter what. It's just a matter of time. Brother Kang is really a genius. You can analyze Lin Yi's thoughts in such a short time. No wonder Master values you so much. After hearing Kang Mingming's words, Little Yi was relieved as if he had taken a tranquilizer. Now, in his opinion, Kang Mingming still had some ability. No wonder Ancestor Xianqin wanted Little Yi to marry him. Although his cultivation strength wasn't high, his IQ was still quite high. Wasn't the Five Elements sect lacking such a person now? The two of them calmed down and returned to the Five Elements sect. Kang Mingming told Patriarch Xianqin about his analysis. Patriarch Xianqin was relieved. After all, Kang Mingming's analysis was very reasonable. In fact, what they didn't know was that this second-class automatic medicinal cauldron was just a temporary substitute suggested by Lin Yi. His purpose was to trick Kang Mingming. Han Jingjing had already found the materials that could replace a Grade 2 cauldron. The so-called technical difficulties were just Han Jingjing wanting to perfect the second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron a little more. After all, the current second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron could only be controlled by a limited number of people. Only a second-grade alchemist could use it. However, there were only a few second-grade alchemists in the entire ancient times. If you were to produce so many second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons, who would you sell them to? This thing wouldn't break down so quickly unless it was done improperly and caused an explosion. Otherwise, a cauldron could be used for a few years or even decades. If you produced this kind of cauldron again, you wouldn't be able to sell it at all. During this time, Lin Yi had been staying in the Palace of Darkness to practice. The third level of the art of dragon mastery was about to break through to the level of perfection. Lin Yi was ready to break through in one go. However, Lin Yi knew that this thing wasn't something that could be achieved in a day. Whether or not he could successfully break through, it was up to fate. Just when the Grand Elder happily returned to the Palace of Darkness with the 3 second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons, Lin Yi also received a call from Han Jingjing, or rather, Lu Jinghan. There were a lot of sect masters and elders who wanted to use high prices or other resources to exchange for the cauldrons from the Grand Elder, but the Grand Elder didn't agree. She was very clear about her position in the Palace of Darkness, and was ready to let Meng Yao make the decision when she came back. However, she noted down all the conditions that each family offered, so that Meng Yao could come up with a plan to sell the 2 extra cauldrons to which family they should sell them. Jingjing, it's about the cauldrons, right? Lin Yi picked up and asked. Yes, Lin Yi bro, you really know everything, Han Jingjing said, surprised. Lu Jinghan, stop complimenting me. I'm not used to it. Lin Yi sweated. Han Jingjing's compliments always made him feel awkward. I'm Han Jingjing. Could it be that Lin Yi bro likes business genius girls like Lu Jinghan? Han Jingjing asked. Then it'll be Han Jingjing. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Do you have a new plan? Actually, you can make your own decisions, you don't have to discuss everything with me. Actually, it's like this. Second-grade automatic cauldrons that use replacement materials can be sold in the market at any time. We've already found a solution to the problem of the cauldron materials. However, if it's just a replacement material, even if the quality is slightly better, it won't be able to increase the sales. Han Jingjing said. The current second-grade automatic cauldrons use sky elixir sex cauldrons as raw materials, and they can be used for years or even decades. Our substitute materials, on the other hand, can be used for decades. There's a difference in essence, but it's not that big. We can't wait for a decade before we sell it. Oh? Then what's the situation now? Lin Yi asked. The second-grade automatic cauldrons were selling well recently, and Lin Yi had gotten a huge sum of money from the Overseas Practitioners Association. It was still in the jade space, and he didn't have time to give it to Shioka. Plus, with the money transfer, the orphanage didn't lack money anymore. It was on the right track, and Lin Yi had one less thing to worry about. So, Lin Yi didn't need money that much, but Lin Yi knew that the company's operations had reached a certain scale, and it had become a business that House Lu, Fatty Lai, and Khan Xiaobo depended on to survive. It couldn't be stopped or shut down, so Lin Yi had to keep helping them. The current situation is that Jingjing has invented a cauldron that allows a first-grade refiner to refine second-grade pills. Han Jingjing's words were earth-shattering, and it gave Lin Yi a big fright. What? A first-grade refiner can refine second-grade pills? Lin Yi couldn't be blamed for his shock. This was simply overturning the millennium-old laws and rules of the cultivation world. If a first-grade refiner could refine second-grade pills, then the status of a second-grade refiner would plummet. Chapter 33:16. Yes, but now there is still a technical problem, Han Jingjing said. The principle of this first and second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron is to rely on the first-grade alchemist to control the temperature of the alchemy fire. In terms of fire intensity, the alchemy fire of the first-grade alchemist is definitely not as good as the fire intensity of the second-grade alchemist's alchemy fire. In this part, we can rely on external forces to make up for it. I think this external force is a material that can store and provide heaven and earth aura. As long as we find this material, we can make the first and second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron. It's just that this material is quite difficult to find, and charging it with energy is also a problem. Although we can earn a lot of follow-up profits by constantly helping the first and second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron to charge, even if this material is found, how to charge it with energy, and how to charge it is also a problem. Han Jingjing's words were not complicated. It was nothing more than a condition that the first-grade alchemist could not meet. This new version of first and second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron could be used to make up for it. This principle was the same as Lin Yi's original idea of using the joint attack technique to let multiple alchemists simultaneously perform alchemy. He didn't expect that after Han Jingjing heard it, she directly applied it on the new version of the automatic medicinal cauldron. He had to say that Han Jingjing was a little genius. If this kind of medicinal cauldron went on the market, it would probably bring an unimaginable rush to buy it, and the subsequent after-sales service charging would also be an astronomical profit. But the same problem was, how to store energy and qi. Lin Yi had a flash of inspiration. The first thing that came to mind was Falbert's heirloom white energy stone. Later, the thing that Udake brought was the same thing. In other words, this white energy stone could store and release energy and qi. However, this kind of thing was rare. At first, it was regarded as a treasure by Falbert's sect, and later, not many were found. One could imagine the rarity of this thing. But later Udake brought a treasure map, saying that there was a lot of this stone in the treasure. Could it be possible to get these stones out? Thinking of this, Lin Yi fell silent and began to plan in his heart. Even without Han Jingjing, Lin Yi had planned to go to the Hakonamata Desert. According to the information provided by the Red Conches, there was a poison refining base there. Moreover, It was the largest poison refining base in the Red Conches. Perhaps there would be news of the pangolin there. Big Brother Lin, what are you thinking? Are you thinking of that white energy stone? Han Jingjing asked. You've also thought of it. Only then did Lin remember that Han Jingjing also knew about this matter. When he was free, Lin had given the stone to Han Jingjing to study. Yes, when Jingjing designed the first and second grade automatic medicinal cauldrons, she used this white energy stone as a reference. Jingjing thought that the principle of this thing is probably the same, so when Jingjing designed it, she also used the white energy stone as the prototype. Han Jingjing said. In other words, as long as we have this white energy stone, we can mass produce it, right? Lin nodded and made up his mind to go to the Hakonamata Desert. Yes, but this only solves the initial problem. The key is to recharge. Han Jingjing paused and continued. Or if we have enough white energy stones to replace it. This is a difficult problem. Lin frowned. Where did the energy of this white energy stone come from? After using it, could it be recharged? After thinking about it, Lin said, Jingjing, wait a minute. I'll make a call and ask about this matter. Lin patted his head. How could he forget about Boss Bai? Boss Bai, as the former sect master of the Five Elements faction, was very knowledgeable. Since Lil 11 didn't take away the energy stone after seeing it but threw it aside in disdain, it meant that she had seen this thing before. So if she had seen this thing, how could Boss Bai not have seen it before? Thinking about this, Lin decided to ask Boss Bai for advice. Okay, Brother Lin, I'll wait for your news. Oh, I've returned to East Ocean City. I'm at the mansion. When will you come back? Han Jingjing somewhat missed Lin. When Lin came back, she wasn't at home. When she received the news and came back, Lin was already gone. In fact, Lin left the mansion after one night, and Han Jingjing couldn't make it back in time the next day. Okay, I'll go back now. I also want to visit Ms. Bai, Lin said. Then I'll be waiting for you. Han Jingjing nodded happily. Lin got up and left the guest room. He was leaving the Palace of Darkness. He had stayed in the Palace of Darkness for about a week. Lin Yi's third stage of the Art of Dragon Mastery was close to completion, but it wasn't complete yet. He had been stagnating these few days, so it was time for Lin Yi to leave. Although Meng Yao knew that Lin Yi couldn't always stay with her in the Palace of Darkness, she didn't expect that when the day really came, she would be this sad, just like the last time they parted. Meng Yao imagined that Lin Yi could stay with her in the Palace of Darkness. Although they didn't see each other much, and Lin Yi was there most of the time, it was enough. It was just like when they were in the mansion. Knowing that Lin Yi was by her side, Meng Yao felt very safe. But Meng Yao was a rational person. She knew that Lin Yi still had many things to do, and it was impossible for him to not leave. Only when Lin Yi kept improving, could they be together in the future. Lin Yi had to improve his strength in order to face the Sky Island project in the future. After saying goodbye to Meng Yao and the Grand Elder, Meng Yao didn't want to leave, but she didn't show it on her face. She was just a little sad. The miss was like that. She kept a lot of things in her heart, and wouldn't say it out loud. That night, Lin Yi rode the purple lightning beast back to Dahai City. When Lin Yi got home, he saw Han Jingjing in the living room. Big bro Lin Yi, you're back. Han Jingjing, Yushu, and Xinyan were very familiar with each other, so she didn't feel strange at all. And, Jingjing, pack up. We'll go see Ms. Bai together. Lin Yi wanted to settle this as soon as possible and leave for Hakonamata Desert. Chapter 33:17. Yushu and Xinyan didn't know what to do, but they heard from Han Jingjing that Lin Yi was going to see Boss Bai after he came back. It was already very late, but Boss Bai was happy to hear that Lin Yi was coming. However, in Boss Bai's living room, Lin Yi unexpectedly saw Himeiwe. He didn't expect Himeiwe to move into Boss Bai's house. Did this mean that Bai Weituo had gotten Himeiwe? As expected, when Lin Yi glanced at Bai Weituo was a little embarrassed. Boss, I've already brought Meiwe to see her parents. We've made plans to go to Southeast Asia tomorrow, so Meiwe will be staying here tonight. Linny nodded. Although Linny always felt that Himeiwa wasn't very reliable, since Baiwetuo liked her, Linny didn't want to interfere too much. Have fun! Linny smiled. Boss, are you really not going? You're not bringing sis-in-law Sinyan. Ugh! And sis-in-law Jingjing. Baiwetuo saw Han Jingjing and knew that he said the wrong thing. It was really harmful to speak without thinking. Han Jingjing was obviously here, but she had to mention Sinyan. Baiwetuo was a little depressed. Even an idiot could see that Han Jingjing and Lin Yi's relationship wasn't ordinary. However, Han Jingjing didn't have any expression of jealousy. Instead, when she heard him call her sis-in-law, she was a little shy. This made Baiwetuo feel relieved. I'm not going. I have a lot of things to do here. Are you two going tomorrow? Linny asked. Fan Ganha and Zhang Duopan are going too. Who knows why they're going? But we're not on the same schedule. When it came to this matter, Baiwetuo was a little annoyed. These two people were really haunting him. Himeiwa had already confirmed a relationship with him. Did Zhang Duopan still want to interfere with it? Those two? Linny frowned after hearing this. Be careful. Don't worry, boss. I'll stay away from them. Baiwetuo nodded. Linny didn't say anything more. He turned around and said to Boss Bai, Mr. Bai, shall we talk in the study? Let's go! Boss Bai knew that Linny must have a reason to visit him so late, so he stood up and walked to the library first, followed by Linny and Han Jingjing. After they entered the study, Baiwetuo said to Himeiwa with a smile, Meiwa, it's getting late. Shall we go rest? What rest? Grandpa Bai didn't rest, and you're telling me to rest? Aren't you making a fool of yourself? What's going on in your head? Himeiwa and Baiwetuo had not broken through the last line of defense, but the two of them were already kissing and hugging. Even so, Baiwetuo could not stop. Hee, then let's watch TV here for a while. Baiwetuo laughed twice and sat on the sofa helplessly. However, after Himeiwa sat down, she glanced at Baiwetuo and said shyly, Baiwetuo, how about you take a bath first? Seeing that you've endured so much these days, I promise to reward you tonight. I can use my mouth to help you, do it once, but you have to wash it clean. If you can't do it properly, don't blame me for not keeping my promise. After hearing Himeiwa's words, Baiwetuo was pleasantly surprised. He quickly stood up, patted his chest and promised, Don't worry, I will definitely wash it well. I promise to wash it very clean, 3 circles inside and 3 circles outside. You won't find any problem. And okay, I'll check the time. Don't come out less than half an hour. Himeiwa nodded with satisfaction. Of course, half an hour is too short, at least 30 minutes. Baiwetuo laughed and rushed in the direction of the bathroom. After seeing Baiwetuo enter the bathroom, Himeiwa, who was originally sitting on the sofa, had a complicated look in her eyes. Then she stood up, picked up a cup of water on the coffee table, and walked in the direction of the water dispenser. However, when she passed by the study room, she seemed to have slipped and held on to the door of the study room for support before stopping. Although Linny was a heaven stage expert, he also felt that someone was coming from the door of the study room. But then, there was the sound of the water dispenser, so Linny didn't care. After all, the people outside the door were Baiwetuo and others. Linny didn't need to suspect anything. Besides, this person just went to get the water and didn't stay at the door of the study room. At this moment, Linny just finished chatting with Boss Bai and briefly talked about what happened recently. Then, he went into the main topic. Teacher Bai, you must have heard about the latest second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron, right? Linny asked. Why haven't I heard about it? Your second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron has been in the limelight recently. But why? I heard that this medicinal cauldron has stopped selling. Are you preparing to research some improved version? Boss Bai asked. Yes, it is indeed like this. This rumor is not wrong. Linny directly admitted this point. We are developing a new generation of second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron. It will no longer use second-grade medicinal cauldron as the raw material, but use a new type of substitute material to make it. But we have encountered a technical problem. Oh? You have found the substitute material? That's really great. Boss Bai nodded after listening and said, I have to tell you before that even if the raw material of this second-grade medicinal cauldron is ordered from the Hidden You family, their medicinal cauldron also comes from the Heavenly Elixir sect, which is the Five Elements sect. So, this is not a long-term solution. But since you have found it, there is no problem. Yes, but the current difficulty is to make this second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron more intelligent. Linny said. It's like this. As Linny spoke, he explained the principle and function of the new first-grade and second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron, invented by Han Jingjing to Boss Bai in detail. Oh? So, this medicinal cauldron is actually so powerful? Boss Bai was a senior alchemist. His understanding of alchemy was even deeper than that of Lin Yi. At this time, when he heard that there was actually such a medicinal cauldron, he was very surprised. He also knew what kind of impact this kind of medicinal cauldron would have on alchemists. Yes, but this kind of white energy stone is very rare, Linny said. Here is a map, which was given to me by a friend. It is said that in the distant Hakunamata desert, there is such a white energy stone mine, and there are many white energy stones in it. Chapter 33:18. What's wrong, Mr. Bai? Is there anything wrong? Seeing Boss Bai's expression, Lin Yi's heart sank slightly. It seemed that things were not as simple as he had imagined. Lin Yi, even if you go to the Hakunamata desert, you may not be able to get the white energy stone. Boss Bai shook his head and said, Because I know very well about the white energy stone. It was recorded in detail in the Five Elements Sect's journal. What do you mean? Is there no white energy stone there? Is this map a lie? Linny was stunned and asked. The map is not a lie. There is indeed a white energy stone mine there. Boss Bai paused for a moment, and then continued. However, that place is not an ownerless place. It has long been controlled by someone, and it is a family of cultivators. A cultivation family? Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that things were not as easy as he had imagined. That's right. There is a mysterious race called the Bubbly Clan in the Hakunamata Desert. This race can be said to be human, but also not human. No one knows what they are, because they have never revealed it. They appear in human form, but they look very different from ordinary people. At first, everyone thought that they were people from a foreign land, and it was normal for them to look different. But with the development of science and technology, and the popularization of the Internet, even people in the cultivation world can use the Internet. People found that the appearance of this race is different from that of foreigners. It is special, so we suspect that they are not a human race. Boss Bai explained. The Bubbly Clan? Not human? Lin Yi was a little surprised after hearing this, but not to the extent of being shocked. After all, Lin Yi had seen the Great Flame Lion Clan, the Spider Clan, and there were Purple Electric Beast Clan and other cultivating spirit beasts around him. So it was not surprising that other non-human clans could cultivate. Yes, but I'm not sure, because the Bubbly Clan, apart from our Five Elements sect and the Cultivators Trade Association, have little contact with other people, and have little information. Boss Bai paused for a moment, and said, When they came to the cultivation world on Huaxia's side, the Bubbly Clan didn't have much contact with other people. They're here to do business. Through our Five Elements sect, they've contacted the Cultivators Trade Association, and then they're selling the white energy stones in exchange for the cultivation resources they need. So they're saying that their white energy stones can be sold? Lin Yi's interest was piqued at this point. But these white energy stones, I don't think it's very common now. Yes, but that was in the past. In the last 200 to 300 years, the Bubbly Clan no longer had dealings with this side. During their last transaction, they also said that the white energy stone mines were becoming fewer and fewer. They would keep the rest for their own use. As for the cultivation resources they traded, they would have to pay for it. It was enough for them to use for several lifetimes, so they stopped trading. Boss Bai said, So, after the passage of these 200 or 300 years, most of the cultivators who know about this kind of white energy stone have either passed away or are too lazy to mention it. Linny nodded after hearing this. Time could annihilate a lot of things. 200 or 300 years was enough for the white energy stone to be annihilated in the tide of history. Because, let alone 200 or 300 years, even 100 years was enough for many people to forget these things. However, it wasn't surprising that Little 11 and the others knew about white energy stones. The Five Elements sect was the first sect to contact the Bubblingly clan, so it was likely that the Five Elements sect still had some white energy stones in stock. It was no wonder that Little 11 was disdainful of them. If that's the case, then this thing belongs to the Bubblingly clan. Does that mean that even if I go to the Hakunamada Desert and find the location on this map, it won't do me any good and I won't be able to get the white energy stones? After hearing this, Linny couldn't help but be very disappointed. It seemed that Udake's so-called treasure map might not be a treasure map, but a map of the Bubblingly clan's location. The person who originally traded with the Bubblingly clan might have obtained a white energy stone and a map from them, and wanted to exchange it later. But these two things somehow fell into the hands of Udake, making him mistakenly think that they were good things. That's not necessarily true. Because so many years have passed, maybe the Bubblingly clan has found a new energy stone mine. It's just that there has been no trade for so many years, and their remaining cultivation resources in their hands are enough, so they have not come to trade again. Boss Bai waved his hand and said, "So if you have this with you, there is no harm in going to take a look." "I see. In that case, I should really try my luck." After listening, Linny nodded and said, "Yes, the Bubblingly clan is relatively easy to deal with. For them, as long as you pay enough price and sincerity, they will also return the favor." Boss Bai said, "In that case, thank you, Teacher Bai. It's getting late, I'll go back first." After getting the answer he wanted, Linny did not stay any longer. After all, it was already very late. "Okay, I won't see you off." Boss Bai paused here and said, "I heard about the matter of the Dark Night Palace. It should be related to Xianqin. You should be careful." "I know." Lin Yi had already suspected Kong Mingming before. At this time, when Boss Bai said this, Lin Yi was even more sure that this matter was caused by ancestors Xianqin and Kong Mingming. However, even if he knew, Lin Yi could not do anything for the time being. Lin Yi knew his own strength. It was true that he could instantly kill experts with the strength of the peak late stage of Heaven stage, but he could not do it continuously. Moreover, the Five Elements sect still had experts with the strength of the peak late stage of Heaven stage perfection. Lin Yi could not directly kill them. Not long after Lin Yi and Han Jingjing left Boss Bai's residence, in the distant Five Elements sect, Ancestor Xuanqin's face was very gloomy. At this time, Kong Mingming beside him was also full of shock, astonishment, and disbelief. "Father-in-law, is what you said true? Lin Yi does not intend to use the second-grade medicinal cauldron as raw material to produce second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons?" Kong Mingming asked very unwillingly. Chapter 33:19. "So? All the second-grade medicinal cauldrons we've made before are in vain?" Kong Mingming's whole body was like a balloon that had been sucked dry, and his whole body went limp on the ground. One had to know that this was his entire stake. The idea was good. If he could seize the source of raw materials from Lin Yi, he would not be afraid that Lin Yi would not cooperate with him obediently. But what about now? Lin Yi had replaced the second-grade medicinal cauldrons, and all the second-grade medicinal cauldrons produced by Kong Mingming were useless. Not only was it a waste of manpower and material resources, but most importantly, the Five Elements sect did not have the capital to cooperate with Lin Yi anymore. If there is no accident, it should be like this. Ancestor Xianqin was originally powerless when it came to business matters. Now that this had happened, he had no idea what to do. However, he did not blame Kong Mingming. After all, he was the one who had made the decision in the beginning. Now that there was a problem, he also had a lot of responsibility. If there is no accident, If there is no accident. Father-in-law, why don't we give him an accident? When Kang Mingming said this, his face flashed a touch of ferociousness. Lin Yi, you forced me to do this. Since you don't know how to appreciate favors and don't cooperate with us, then don't blame me for fighting to the death with you. An accident? How can there be an accident? Ancestor Xianxin was originally at his wit's end, but after hearing Kang Mingming's words, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he quickly asked, Isn't Lin Yi going to the Hakunamata desert to find the Bubbly clan? Kang Mingming said. Father-in-law, you should have the contact information of the Bubbly clan, right? Boss Bai also said that as long as we pay enough sincerity and bargaining chips, the Bubbly clan will return the favor. In this case, why don't we make the first move and let the Bubbly clan refuse to cooperate with Lin Yi and refuse to sell the white energy stones to Lin Yi? In this way, I'm afraid that Lin Yi's plan of the first grade and second grade automatic medicinal cauldrons will come to an end. It's not impossible, but if we do this, even if Lin Yi doesn't produce the first grade and second grade automatic medicinal cauldrons, and only produces the existing second grade automatic medicinal cauldrons and replaces them with new materials, we still have no competitiveness. Ancestor Xianxin did not have Kang Mingming's business sense, so he did not understand Kang Mingming's meaning. It's like this. As long as there are no white energy stones, they can only produce the current second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons. Even if they replace the materials of the medicinal cauldrons, the function will still be the same, right? Kang Mingming paused and continued. As long as this is the case, we will have the strength to compete. Now, our Heavenly Elixir sect also has a second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron on the market. When the time comes, we can let Dr. Benjamin too imitate it. It should be possible to imitate it. It's just a matter of time. At that time, we will also sell and compete with them. In this way, we don't have to worry about those second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons not being sold. Good idea! Ancestor Xianxin nodded. Although he was not as smart as Kang Mingming in business matters, when it came to ruthlessness, he was even worse than Kang Mingming. He thought for a while and came up with a more ruthless method. If Lin Yi dies, then this medicinal cauldron will be sold exclusively by our Heavenly Elixir sect in the future? At that time, we can earn as much money as we want. Oh? Father-in-law, you want to get rid of Lin Yi? When Kang Mingming heard this, he was pleasantly surprised. But Lin Yi's strength is there. Wasn't he able to instantly kill a peak late heaven rank expert? Who should we send to kill Lin Yi? Us? We don't need to do it. Elder Xianxin shook his head and chuckled. The Bubbly clan isn't weak. As far as I know, they already have 3 experts at the peak of the late stage of heaven rank. Now, I'm afraid they have even more. Let them test the waters and get rid of Lin Yi. It's a good idea. Now, no one knows if Lin Yi can fight against a peak late heaven rank great perfection expert. So, with the Bubbly clan taking action, it will save me a lot of probing. Moreover, even if we fail, we won't lose anything. That's a good idea. I didn't expect the Bubbly clan to be so formidable. But father-in-law, can they make a move? Kang Mingming was confident that the Bubbly clan wouldn't make a deal with Lin Yi, but he wasn't confident that they would be able to get rid of Lin Yi. So, he couldn't help but worry. We have to give it a try. Ancestor Xianxin pondered for a moment and said, How about this, you make a move now. Go to the Bubbly clan and negotiate with them with my keepsake. Ah? I have to go personally? Kang Mingming was stunned. The Bubbly clan hasn't contacted the cultivation world in the Central Plains for 200 to 300 years. I don't have any way to contact them. After all, there were no telephones at that time, and the messenger pigeons that specialize in delivering letters are all dead. If I don't go personally, I really have no way to contact them. Ancestor Xianxin said. But don't worry, the Bubbly clan's earliest emissary to the Central Plains contacted our 5-element sect. If you go with the identity of a disciple of our 5-element sect, they won't make things difficult for you. That's good. Kang Mingming thought that if he could get Lin Yi to die, So what if he had to travel all the way to the Hakunamata Desert? As long as Linny was dead, it would be worth it no matter how tiring it was. If that's the case, pack your things and leave tomorrow, Ancestor Xianqin ordered. The next morning, Kang Mingming packed his things and set off for the Hakunamata Desert with little Yi. Linny actually planned to leave in a few days, but who would have thought that something big would happen at this time, forcing Linny to stop for a while. He cancelled his plan to go to the Hakunamata Desert and stayed in East Sea City. Xinyan had fainted. She'd fainted without any warning. In fact, it was very simple. That morning, Shu was supposed to wake up with Wang Xinyan to eat breakfast made by Lin Yi, but Wang Xinyan was still sound asleep. At first, Shu didn't think much of it. She went downstairs alone. After all, it wasn't a big deal for Wang Xinyan to sleep in. In Shu's opinion, it might be because Lin Yi just came back last night, and Wang Xinyan was a little excited. The two chatted for a long time in the middle of the night before going to bed. So, when Lin Yi didn't see Wang Xinyan, he asked Shu. Shu said that Wang Xinyan slept late last night and didn't wake up. Lin Yi didn't think much of it. Chapter 33:20. Wang Xinyan was a very disciplined person. She'd wake up by now even if she was sleeping late, unless she was sick. Shu, go upstairs and have a look. Why isn't Xian up yet? Lin Yi didn't realize that something was wrong yet. He was just curious. Yushu didn't think there was anything wrong with that. She went upstairs and saw that Xinyan was still sound asleep. She pushed her a few times, but Xinyan didn't wake up. She pushed her a few more times, but Xinyan didn't move at all. Yushu started to panic. It wasn't like this hadn't happened to Xinyan before, but it was a long time ago. Lin Yi had gotten the medicine from the Snowy Valley, and Xinyan was no different from a normal person after using it. Shu was relieved, but now it seemed like Xinyan was acting up again. Shield bro! Xiao Shu hurriedly ran out of the room and stood at the staircase on the second floor of the villa, shouting, "Oh no, Sister Xian fainted again!" What? Lin Yi, who was washing the dishes in the kitchen, paused and ran up to the second floor. Wang Xinyan fainted again? What happened? Lin Yi didn't have time to talk to Shu. He rushed into the bedroom and put his hand on Xinyan's wrist. Lin Yi frowned. Lin Yi was a doctor. There was no way he wouldn't be able to tell that Xinyan was in a coma. But why was Xinyan unconscious? At this moment, Lin Yi could clearly feel that Xinyan's life force was weakening. Could it be that the jade orchid grass wasn't working anymore? Or could it be that the amount he took last time was not enough? But that was impossible. Old Lin said it before. As long as there was jade orchid grass, Xinyan would be fine. How could there be a problem? But the truth was right in front of him. Lin Yi couldn't question it. So after a moment of silence, Lin Yi decisively dialed old Lin's number. Congratulations, Lil Yi. You've been improving pretty fast, haven't you? Old Lin also learned from the Blood Cloth Underworld sect that Lin Yi could now instantly kill a peak late-stage heaven rank expert. He was very gratified. It seemed that Lin Yi had dodged another calamity. He grew up in the midst of the calamity. Old man, let's talk about this later. I have something more important to discuss with you. Lin Yi wasn't in the mood to exchange pleasantries with Old Man Lin. If it was any other time, he would have told Old Man Lin about his experiences, but now, because of Wang Xinyan, Lin Yi didn't want to waste precious time. Oh? Lin Dongfang was slightly taken aback, and said solemnly, What happened? Wang Xinyan fainted again. Lin Yi said straightforwardly. I checked her body just now, and the vitality in her body is gradually decreasing. What's going on? The orchid jade grass from before. Didn't they say that Wang Xinyan's problem was completely cured? Why did she faint? Fainted again? Lin Dongfang's brows suddenly furrowed. He was very clear about Wang Xinyan's situation, because he was the one who personally diagnosed and treated Wang Xinyan. He just didn't expect that Wang Xinyan would have this situation again, born weak and sickly. Took the orchid jade grass. Wait. Lin Dongfang's expression suddenly changed. He seemed to have thought of something, and a flash of inspiration flashed across his mind, but he couldn't grasp these two keywords. It opened up Lin Dongfeng's sealed memories, and it made him think of some things when he was young, some things with Lin Yi's master, Yang Ming. When he was roaming the world, those people, those things, yes. Lin Dongfeng stood up abruptly. He thought of something very important. Although he didn't dare to confirm it immediately, from Wang Xinyan's situation, it seemed to be very close. Lin Dongfeng was silent, and Lin Yi could feel his rapid breathing. Lin Yi knew that old Lin must be thinking about something, so he didn't disturb him and waited quietly. As expected, after a while, Lin Dongfeng's voice sounded again. Lily, Wang Xinyan's situation made me think of something, but I can't be sure. How about this? I need to look up some information, wait for my call. Then how do we save Xinyan now? Lin Yi asked. Don't worry about her for now. In this situation, her life is not in danger, if my guess is correct. At this point, Lin Dongfeng's tone slowed down. Then, he said solemnly, if my guess is wrong, then I don't know what's going on with her. If that's the case, then I'm even more helpless. So, you better wait for my news. All right. Although Lin Yi was worried, since old Lin had already said this, Lin Yi also knew that there was no other way. The only thing left was to wait. Time passed minute by minute. Although it was only a short 10 minutes since he hung up the phone, Lin Yi felt like it was a year. Xiao Shu also looked anxious. Chill bro, Xinyan sis, is it also an inheritance? Inheritance? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. Now, according to what Lin Yi knew, there were 7 inheritors of the 5 elements, and 7 attributes. Among them were Xiao Xiao, Xiao Shu, Yao Yao, and Little Jiu. There were still 3 missing. Could Wang Xinyan be one of them? Although Lin Yi felt that it was possible, through his contact with Wang Xinyan, Lin Yi didn't feel that Wang Xinyan had any special attributes, but he didn't rule out the possibility that this attribute was hidden and just activated. But this possibility was very small, because Wang Xinyan's fainting problem wasn't new. She had been weak since she was young. So Lin Yi shook his head. Although there is a possibility, but it's not big. Let's wait for my grandpa's news. Okay, Yushu said casually, and the 2 guarded Wang Xinyan's side, quietly waiting for the news. Half an hour passed like a year for Lin Yi, and Lin Dongfeng finally called. Old man, how is it? Is there any news? Lin Yi quickly picked up the phone when he heard the ringtone. Lily. If I'm not wrong, Wang Xinyan's physique is similar to someone I've met before. Lin Dongfeng said slowly. Chapter 33:21. I don't know what it's called, and that person didn't know either, but she called it the sponge body. Lin Dongfeng said. Sponge body? What does that mean? Lin Yi didn't understand. Is it a type of practitioner's body? You could say that it's called a sponge body, but it's just a metaphor. Old man Lin explained. The so-called sponge is very absorbent, but there are a number of holes on it, so the leakage is also very strong. In other words, the human body is like a sponge. It can absorb a large amount of spiritual energy, but it can also be like squeezing a sponge, squeezing out the water inside, which is the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It is reversible. You're saying that Wang Xinyan has this type of body? Lin Yi thought about it. It really was the case. There seemed to be some energy in Xinyan's body that could be absorbed by him, and Xinyan herself could absorb the qi from her jade pendant and store it in her body. That should be it. Lin Dongfeng nodded. Back then, I had a friend's sister who had this type of body as well. Practitioners with this type of body would be able to level up very quickly if they had the right chance and enough qi. They'd be able to go from a normal person to sky-class late phase peak in a matter of months. Of course, the time would be different depending on the qi in the air. Then Xinyan. Lin Yi was shocked by the speed of a person with this kind of constitution, but he was more worried about Xinyan's body condition. Xinyan was already fainting. What was the point of training? Xinyan's body. It's the same as that person's, triggered by the orchid jade grass. Lin Dongfeng said. It's because of the grass that I thought of this. Old man, it doesn't matter if I know or not. What I want to know is, what should Sun Yan do now? Lin asked. To be honest? Lin Dongfeng smiled bitterly. I don't know either. Ah? You don't know either? Lin was stunned and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Then where can I find your friend's sister? She has already left. For now, you won't be able to find her. But Lin Dongfeng said, what I can tell you is that this kind of physique, without the coordination of mental cultivation method and mnemonic chant, can also absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to wake up and recover on its own. Within a year, there won't be too much danger to his life. However, without the mantra, one cannot become a cultivator. That's not important. The most important thing is to stay alive. Lin Yi was relieved after listening. Don't you know that? You scared me to death. That's just what I heard. I don't know if it works or not. Lin Dongfeng said helplessly. Moreover, do you think it's so easy to find a place with abundant spiritual energy? A place with abundant heaven and earth spiritual qi. Can't those ancient sects do? Lin asked after thinking for a while. It was possible in the past, but I'm afraid it's not possible now. Lin Dongfeng said. The spiritual energy is getting thinner and thinner, it's not enough for her to absorb anymore. Is that so? Lin felt helpless. Old Lin was right. A place with abundant heaven and earth spiritual qi was hard to find. Lin had a ready-made place, but only Lin could enter that place. Wang Xinyan couldn't go in. The jade space could be used for storage, but it didn't work on living beings. He couldn't kill Wang Xinyan and put her in, could he? That person was dead, what was the use of putting her in? But don't be disappointed, that person may have left, but her sister, my friend, is still here. Go ask her, and you'll get the answers you want. Lin Dongfeng sighed and said, I didn't plan to contact her for the rest of my life. But for you, it seems that some things must be faced. Old man, what are you talking about? Lin Yi was confused by Lin Dongfeng's words. He didn't know what Lin Dongfeng meant. Nothing. Old Lin shook his head. Go, when you see her, tell her that you're my descendant. I believe she won't make things difficult for you, and will answer your questions. Chapter 33:22. But this time was different. The beast was very fast, and it only took one night for Lin Yi's group to arrive at the town. The familiar town, everything that had happened half a year ago was still fresh in their minds, as if it had happened yesterday. Lin Yi was only a mystic back then, not even in Earth class, but now, Lin Yi was a Sky class mid-phase. Ice Spirit in, Lin Yi didn't disguise he carried Sun Yan and the purple thunderbolt beast on his back as they walked into the inn's lobby. The Ice Spirit Inn was usually uninhabited when the Ice Palace trials weren't being held. Shopkeeper Li was here every day, but his job was to collect letters from the common world. He knew that someone had entered the inn when he heard footsteps, and looked up curiously to see who it was. Shopkeeper Li, long time no see. Do you still remember me? Lin Yi was no longer as cautious and timid as before, but looked at Shopkeeper Li calmly with a smile. You're Lin Yi! Shopkeeper Li jumped, not expecting Lin Yi to suddenly visit the Ice Palace. Shopkeeper Li knew that Lin Yi wasn't called Lin Yi, but he also knew what had happened in the Dark Palace a while ago. Lin Yi had killed a Sky-class late-phase peak all by himself, and injured 2 Sky-class late-phase peaks. What kind of accomplishment was that? This was still unconfirmed, and there were still people who doubted it, but just the fame that Lin Yi had built up in the past was enough for Elder Li to look up to. Lin Yi was a Sky-class mid-phase, and Elder Li couldn't even hope to catch up to him. The world of practitioners was a world where strength was everything. At this moment, Shopkeeper Li no longer had the arrogant attitude he had when he first met Lin Yi. He quickly stood up from his seat. Welcoming Lin Yi. Haha, it's me! It seems like Shopkeeper Li's memory is quite good. Lin Yi laughed. Young hero Lin, may I know why you've come to our Ice Palace? Shopkeeper Li asked carefully. It's nothing. It's been more than half a year. I really miss the people here, so I came over to have a look. Is Ice Palace's rock candy here? Linny asked. Ice candy chick? Manager Lee was speechless. What kind of address was that? Only Linny would dare to use it. If it was someone else, they would have died countless times. But Elderly didn't dare to say anything. He could only say carefully, The Ice Palace Master is in the Ice Palace. Young hero Lin, do you want me to inform the Palace Master to come and welcome you? He had to be humble. Lin Yi's current strength was there for all to see. Rock Candy came out to welcome him. He was fully qualified. Lin Yi was slightly stunned. He was just joking casually. Why did Manager Lee let Rock Candy come out to greet him? All of a sudden, Lin Yi felt a little emotional. Half a year ago, Rock Candy looked down on him. She didn't even want to see him, but now, why would she come out to greet him? With that thought, Lin Yi's bad taste rose. He said faintly to Manager Lee, All right. Tell her to come and greet me. Yes. Shopkeeper Lee nodded. He didn't think there was anything wrong with this. After all, Lin Yi had the strength to do so, and even a normal sky class would have the right to meet the sect master. But what surprised Lin Yi was that Manager Lee didn't use a pigeon this time. He took out a satellite phone. Lin Yi was very surprised. Your Ice Palace doesn't need pigeons anymore? Why did you change it to a phone? Ahem. Well, the Ice Palace Master actually likes these high-tech products under Vice Palace Master Feng's influence. Manager Lee explained. He knew the relationship between Lin Yi and Xiao Xiao, so he didn't hide it. Oh, Lin Yi nodded. Manager Lee's phone went through as well, and Rock Candy's voice sounded. Manager Lee, what's up? Palace Master, Lin Yi, young Master Lin, has come to our Ice Spirit Tavern. He's heading to the Ice Palace. Do you want to greet him personally? Manager Lee asked carefully. Who's here? Lin Yi? Rock Candy paused, not expecting Lin Yi to come to the Ice Palace. She was a little annoyed and embarrassed. Was Lin Yi here to show off? She remembered that she had promised him that when he had the strength of a sky-class late-phase peak or became a mystic first-level refiner, she would be his little wife. But now that Lin Yi was here, did he want her to fulfill that promise? Naturally, Rock Candy knew about Lin Yi's exploits in the Dark Palace. He killed a sky-class late-phase peak in one hit, so while Lin Yi was only sky-class mid-phase, from what Lin Yi had shown, Lin Yi was at least sky-class late-phase peak. How else would he be able to kill a sky-class late-phase peak in one hit? So naturally, Rock Candy thought that Lin Yi was here to show off. Asking her to greet him? Dream on, humph. Don't think I don't know who the Dark Palace Master Meng Yao is. Was it that hard to ask her to make up a rumor? And so, Rock Candy got even angrier. Greet him? I won't even meet him, much less greet him. With that, Crystal Candy hung up the phone, leaving behind an innocent and nervous Shopkeeper Lee. Was she trying to piss Lin Yi off? But she pissed off Lin Yi, and now she had to face him. What a trap! But Manager Lee didn't dare to complain. He could only smile bitterly at Lin Yi. Young hero Lin, the Palace Master has something to do. Okay, I heard everything. Lead the way, bring me to the Ice Palace. Lin Yi waved his hand, not minding at all. After all, Rock Candy and Lin Yi were old acquaintances. Although her arrogance and disdain made Lin Yi unhappy, Rock Candy had helped him before, and they were quite close. Naturally, he wouldn't get angry over that. Okay. Manager Lee let out a breath of relief. It seemed like Lin Yi was easy to talk to. But Manager Lee found it weird. The last time Lin Yi came, he was carrying someone, and now that he was the Vice Palace Master of the Ice Palace, he was carrying someone again. Was Lin Yi addicted to carrying people? Did he bring someone every time he came to the Ice Palace? Or did Lin Yi carry someone every time he went out? What kind of habit was that? But no matter what, Manager Lee didn't dare ask anything. He carefully walked in front, bringing Lin Yi towards the Ice Palace. Chapter 33-23. Instead, it was a relatively easy path to take. After all, Mystic Division Masters didn't have the ability to fly, but Earth Division and Heaven Division Masters were different. Their Qigong level was greatly improved, especially Heaven Division Masters. This time, Shopkeeper Li didn't bring Lin Yi around in circles, choosing the shortest path. He knew that for a master like Lin Yi, this so-called secret path of the Ice Palace was bullshit. His senses were extremely strong, and going around in circles in front of him was just asking for trouble. The two of them walked toward the direction of the Ice Palace. Up ahead is the Ice Palace's territory. Hero Lin, when we get there, could you wait in the waiting room at the entrance? I'll go report this to the sect master. Shopkeeper Li was in a difficult situation. He didn't dare bring Lin Yi into the Ice Palace without Crystal Candy coming out to welcome him. Of course. Lin Yi nodded faintly. No matter what, Ice Palace was Xiao Xiao's Vice Palace Master, and he didn't need to treat them as an enemy. If Crystal Candy's pride was acting up, he'd let her do it. Lin Yi acted like he didn't see it. Thank you for your understanding, Hero Lin. Shopkeeper Li breathed in relief. Haha. Lin Yi smiled and didn't say anything else. But as the two neared the Ice Palace gates, Shopkeeper Li was about to speak to Lin Yi when an arrogant figure appeared in front of the gates at lightning speed. Lin Yi didn't go full speed in order to take care of Shopkeeper Li's speed, and so the figure just appeared in front of the gates, not caring about Lin Yi and Shopkeeper Li at all. Who's this? Lin Yi frowned. There was someone this unruly in the Ice Palace? He'd never heard of a strong male elder in the Ice Palace. Ah? You don't know him? Shopkeeper Li was a bit confused as to where this person had come from. Since when did the Ice Palace have someone like this? From the looks of it, he was a master? Lin Yi thought that this was someone from the Ice Palace, but Shopkeeper Li said that he didn't know him. Only then did Lin Yi take a closer look at the person who'd walked to the Ice Palace's entrance. Lin Yi jumped in shock when he saw who it was. This person was a sky-class late phase peak. He was on the same level as Crystal Candy? And a man at that? This person was most likely not from the Ice Palace, because the experts from the Ice Palace were not men, they were all women. From the looks of it, this person did not come with good intentions. What confused Lin Yi the most was that this person looked familiar from the back. Lin Yi felt like he'd seen him somewhere before, but from the back, Lin Yi couldn't tell where this person was from. So this person isn't from the Ice Palace? Lin Yi stopped and didn't rush forward. He wanted to see the situation first. After all, Lin Yi came to the Ice Palace for something important. If this person was here to cause trouble, then Lin Yi had to think about how to deal with it. Of course, a sky-class late-phase peak like this wasn't something that Lin Yi cared about, but Lin Yi was afraid that this person was just a vanguard, and there would be others following behind. It wasn't strange for Lin Yi to be doubtful. After all, it wasn't very realistic for someone to cause trouble in the Ice Palace alone. Crystal Candy was also a sky-class late-phase peak, and just her alone was enough to deal with this person. Although he couldn't kill the person who came, it wasn't realistic for the person to want to commit crimes. So Lin Yi decided to see the situation first. Yes, I don't know him. Young warrior Lin, what should we do now? Shopkeeper Li saw that Lin Yi had stopped. He didn't know what Lin Yi was thinking, so he asked. We're not going? Since there's a guest here, then we'll wait. Who asked him to run so fast? Lin Yi said lightly. This? Okay. Shopkeeper Li couldn't tell what Lin Yi was really implying either. Lin Yi's tone was calm, and he didn't know if it was because he really cared about etiquette, letting the customer go first, or if it was because he was unhappy that the customer had gone first. While Shopkeeper Li was guessing, the sky-class late-phase peak master spoke. Where's Crystal Candy? Come out and greet our 5 elements sex messenger. This person's voice was very profound. Once he opened his mouth, it was like a great bell. The entire Ice Palace could hear this shocking voice. If it was before, Lin Yi would be quite envious of this. But now, it was just a small trick in Lin Yi's eyes. However, the words spoken by this person made Lin Yi's eyes sharpen, and a flash of light flashed through his eyes. The envoy of the 5 elements sect? So, this person was on Xianqian ancestors' side? Now, Lin Yi finally understood why this person looked so familiar to him. This person's dressing was very similar to the group of robbers that went to the Dark Palace, but was that all? The thought flashed through Lin Yi's mind, but he didn't think too much about it. This familiarity could only be a minor detail. What was the real reason? Because this person's voice was also familiar to Lin Yi. However, no matter what, this person was undoubtedly from the Five Elements sect. In that case, the three robbers who were injured and killed by him before were probably also disciples of the Five Elements sect. In this way, Ancestor Xianqin was going to vomit blood, right? His three disciples were like this because of him? One dead and two disabled? It should be known that even in the Five Elements sect, there weren't that many Heaven Stage experts. In the ancient times, the number of Heaven Stage experts was only in the double digits. Including those from overseas and foreign lands, there were probably less than 200 Heaven Stage experts. How could the Five Elements sect not feel heartache after losing 3 of their Heaven Stage experts? Crystal Candy was waiting for Elder Li to bring Lin Yi over. She was thinking, if Lin Yi mentioned the little mistress promise, how should she respond? Well, if Lin Yi mentioned it, then she would make a move. She would let her know that rumors stop with the wise. Colluding with the Dark Palace to make up a story about killing a peak late stage Heaven Stage Master and crippling 2 peak late stage Heaven Stage Masters. Would anyone believe such a rumor? Even an Absolute Realm Master wouldn't be able to kill a peak late stage Heaven Stage Master so quickly, right? Chapter 33-24. But what Bing Tang didn't expect was that someone was shouting outside the Ice Palace. Who had the guts to do that? Could it be Lin Yi? But what surprised Bing Tang was that it didn't seem to be Lin Yi's voice. Moreover, he said that he was the messenger of the Five Elements sect. What was the messenger of the Five Elements sect doing here? But no matter who he was, Bing Tang couldn't just ignore him. The name of the Five Elements sect was there, and the relationship between the Ice Palace and the Five Elements sect was unclear. Bing Tang also vaguely knew who was supporting the Heavenly Elixir sect. So, she had to meet this person. Thinking of this, Bing Tang didn't hesitate. She flew out of her room and floated towards the entrance of the Ice Palace. Ice Palace Master, you're so arrogant. You made me wait here for so long, and now you're coming out? Could it be that you don't put our Five Elements sect in your eyes? The Five Elements sect's emissary asked arrogantly. The messenger of the Five Elements sect? What business do you have with our Ice Palace? Bing Tang glanced at the strength of the messenger. She knew that he was only at the peak of the late phase of Heaven Stage. He was on the same level as her. Naturally, she wouldn't be too polite. After all, she was the leader of an ancient sect. It was good enough that he came to greet her personally. Humph! Bing Tang, I won't talk nonsense with you. What do you think about the marriage with the Heavenly Elixir sect? Do you agree or not? The messenger of the Five Elements sect shouted. He came here to confirm this matter. Ancestor Xianqin was in a bad mood after being humiliated by Lin Yi. He suddenly remembered the matter of the Ice Palace. So, he sent his disciple, Little Six, to the Five Elements sect. That's right, this Little Six was that Old Six who stopped Lin Yi on the Wulonghao mountain range back then. Old 12 had been killed, but Old 6 was still fine. It was just that he had messed things up back then, and Patriarch Xianqin had made him think about it behind closed doors for a period of time. Now that Little 3, Little 4, and Little 5 were dead, and Tag Unlong had recovered, Little 6 could return to the world. This was the first task he had done since he returned to the world. He had been cooped up in his room for a long time, so he was naturally in a bad mood. So he vented it on Rock Candy. One had to know that this engagement was something that Patriarch Black Earth valued the most, and was of utmost importance. In order to carry out the plan, he would have to convince the successors to agree to the marriage. Otherwise, it would be difficult to guarantee that they would not have any selfish motives. If that happened, he would be doomed eternally. Rock Candy's matter had been dragged on for a long time, and the Xianqin ancestors sent Little Six here for 2 reasons. 1. to give the Ice Palace's exit a good beating with Lin Yi, and 2, to test Rock Candy's attitude and see if the heir was Xiao Xiao or Rock Candy. Hearing Little Six talk about the engagement, Rock Candy's expression changed instantly. Anger surged on her face. It's really your Five Elements sect's doing. I was wondering what was going on with this engagement. Why is the Sky Elixir sect so domineering? So it's because you guys are supporting them. Supporting? So what? Rock Candy, who do you think you are? You're just a palace master of the Ice Palace. Do you think that if it wasn't for the fact that the Ice Palace is a subsidiary of our Five Elements sect, you would have the status you have now? Others would be afraid of you. Give you face? Dream on. If you go against our Five Elements sect, I guarantee that the Ice Palace will be destroyed. Little Six was here to vent his anger. First, it was his anger, and second, it was the Xianqian ancestors' anger. So, he was arrogant and didn't care. At this time, Xiao Xiao also rushed over. Rock Candy could hear Little Six shout, so naturally, Xiao Xiao could hear it too. As the Vice Palace Master of the Ice Palace, she had to show up out of etiquette when a guest came to visit. But she had just reached Sky Class early phase, and wasn't as strong as Rock Candy, so she was slower. She thought that it was some kind of friendly guest, but she didn't expect to hear Little Six words as soon as she arrived. Xiao Xiao's face changed. Who was Xiao Xiao? She used to be one of the 4 big bullies of Songshan's first school. One could imagine her temper. Naturally, she wasn't happy that someone was causing trouble in front of the Ice Palace. As the Vice Palace Master of the Ice Palace, if she didn't fight back, then where would the Ice Palace's face go? Plus, there were many times when Rock Candy couldn't speak up, and she had to speak up. This was related to the Ice Palace's honor. If Rock Candy spoke up, then they might start fighting, but if Xiao Xiao spoke up, then there was still some leeway. This was the difference between the Palace Masters and Vice Palace Masters. They could attack and defend. Who are you, old man? Senior Sister Rock Candy is my husband's little wife. What engagement? Is there something wrong with you, old thing? Xiao Xiao frowned. Your husband? Little Six paused. He didn't know Xiao Xiao, but he saw that she was just a Sky Class early phase, so he didn't think much of her. She wasn't someone powerful. And Rock Candy was someone's little wife? Why didn't he know about this? It was just an excuse to reject the engagement. With that thought, Little Six wasn't afraid anymore. He didn't dare hit Rock Candy, but he could hit Xiao Xiao, an elder. That's right, in his eyes, Xiao Xiao was just a normal elder of the Ice Palace. After all, no one had ever heard that Xiao Xiao was Rock Candy's junior sister. Didn't Rock Candy's master leave the Ice Palace a long time ago? Where would she find a disciple? This person in front of him wasn't Xiao Xiao then. And so, Little Six glared and raised his hand, slapping at Xiao Xiao's face. Of course, he didn't want to kill her, he just wanted to teach her a lesson. Little bitch, how dare you yell in front of me? I'll slap you to death. Don't you dare! Bingting jumped in fright, and quickly pulled Xiao Xiao to the side. But Little Six was a Sky Class late phase peak after all, and his palm was already swinging out. Xiao Xiao dodged it because of Bingtang, but the wind from the palm still hit Bingtang, tearing a couple of holes in her white shirt, but even so, Rock Candy didn't dare say anything. If it was someone from the Sky Elixir sect here, she would fight them, but against someone from the Five Elements sect, she really didn't dare. Rock Candy's face was red as she glared at Little Six. Chapter 3325. Yesterday's chapter has been revised. Everyone can go back and read it again. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow path. Back then, Lin Yi was afraid of him, Patriarch Xianqian. But now, since Lin Yi had already killed a few of Patriarch Xuanqian's people and made Little 11th miserable, how could Lin Yi let Little 7 go back in one piece? Who? Xiao Qi was shocked. He didn't expect someone to be so arrogant. He was the high and mighty emissary of the Five Elements sect, the disciple of Patriarch Xianqian, so he was furious at that moment. What a yawning toad! What arrogance! Xiao Qi heard Lin Yi's voice, and so did Bing Tang and Xiao Xiao. Their faces changed slightly. Bing Tang was a little annoyed that Lin Yi was calling her lil 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 lil. If Lin Yi stood up for them, wouldn't that just draw the hatred onto the Ice Palace? Rock Candy didn't think that Lin Yi had the ability to face the Five Elements sect alone. Xiao Xiao, on the other hand, was different. She was overjoyed to see Lin Yi, even forgetting that the Ice Palace was in trouble. It had been a long time since she'd seen Lin Yi, and she missed him a lot. She rushed into Lin Yi's arms and hugged him tight. Lin Yi, honey, you came to see me. You're Lin Yi? Little Six's face changed upon hearing this. However, it wasn't because he was afraid of Lin Yi. He didn't know that Little 3, Little 4, and Little 5 had died at Lin Yi's hands. After all, Xiao San, Xiao Si, and Xiao Wu were secretly carrying out Ancestor Xuanzhen's orders to pretend to be robbers. Such a thing was very disgraceful. Even within the Five Elements sect, Ancestor Xuanzhen could not speak of it, in case it reached the ears of Ancestor Xuanzhen or Boss Bai. Plus, when the three returned, one was dead and two were injured. Ancestor Xuanzhen wouldn't speak of such a shameful thing, and it would weaken his morale. Therefore, Xiao Qi didn't know the specifics of this matter. He only knew that 3 of his senior brothers were killed or crippled during a mission, but he didn't know who killed them. Although this matter was shocking, Xiao Qi also knew the rules. He shouldn't ask about things he shouldn't ask. Of course, if time was longer, Xiao Qi would still be able to hear some clues from other people's mouths. After all, this matter could not be hidden for a long time. However, time was short, and he was directly assigned a mission by old ancestor Xuanzhen. Therefore, Xiao Qi didn't know about Lin Yi's heroic deeds at all. His memory was still at the Wulanhate mountain range, when Lin Yi killed Old 12 and injured Tag and Dragon. So it's you, Lin Yi, kid? What an arrogant tone. I let you escape back in Wulanhate mountains. This time, I'll kill you first to avenge my 12th brother and Tag Long. Xiao Qi smiled coldly. He didn't expect that there would be an unexpected harvest this time. If the culprit of the Wulanhate mountains, Lin Yi, could be killed, then his contribution would be great. Xiao Qi also knew that his position was not very outstanding among the disciples of the Five Elements sect. There were 6 senior brothers above him, but it was different now. Other than Xiao Yi and Xiao Er, there was only him. If he made a contribution this time, then the Xuanzhen ancestor would definitely think highly of him, right? Thinking of this, Xiao Qi was determined to kill Lin Yi here and now. Is that so? Then let's see who dies first. A smile flashed across the corner of Lin Yi's mouth. As soon as he finished speaking, he put Xiao Xiao to the side and activated the mantra. The 11th move of the Frenzy 8 trigram palm was used, and it hit Xiao Qi's chest. Xiao Qi raised his vigilance towards Lin Yi's palm, but he didn't care too much. After all, when Lin Yi activated the mantra, he could see that Lin Yi was a Sky-class mid-stage master. Although he was a little surprised that Lin Yi's strength increased so quickly, Xiao Qi didn't care more about it. After all, although Lin Yi's strength increased, it was not enough to enter Xiao Qi's eyes. He was a master at the peak of the late stage of Sky-class. So, Xiao Qi calmly activated the mantra and prepared to protect his body with qi, but he didn't dodge. Instead, he prepared to give Lin Yi a critical blow after Lin Yi hit him, and fight head-on with Lin Yi. Boom! The 11th form of the frenzied fire 8 trigrams palm hit Xiao Qi's chest. Xiao Qi's expression changed from disdain to shock in less than a second. In the next moment, Xiao Qi's body was sent flying and smashed into the walls of the Ice Palace. There was a deafening sound as he smashed a large hole in the crystal pillars of the Ice Palace. Xiao Qi was shocked, but Crystal Candy and Xiao Xiao were even more shocked. A complicated look flashed in Crystal Candy's eyes. Lin Yi could really kill a Sky-class late-stage peak? How was this possible? Lin Yi's strength was only at the mid-phase of Sky-class. How was it possible for him to use such a powerful move? Crystal Candy couldn't believe her own eyes. Xiao Xiao, on the other hand, was shocked, but she was even happier. Lin Yi was even stronger than before, able to injure a sky-class late-stage peak. Who in the world of practitioners would dare look down on Lin Yi now? Impossible! Xiao Qi clutched his chest. He was not dead yet. This was because he had used his true qi to protect his body. However, even if he had used his true qi to protect his body, the 11th move of the Raging Flame 8 trigram palm, coupled with the profound qi necklace, was not something he could resist. Back in the Dark Palace, 1 dead and 2 crippled, they were your fellow disciples, right? I say, Xiao Qi, why don't you people from the 5 Elements sect learn from your mistakes? Do you think it's fun to get killed by me? Lin Yi looked at 7 and said faintly. What? 3rd senior brother, 4th senior brother, 5th senior brother, did you do it? 7's eyes went wide as he stared at Lin Yi in disbelief. His words, however, revealed the identity of little 3, little 4 and little 5. Lin Yi saw that Xiao Qi's dressing was similar to the 3 robbers from the Dark Palace, and so he said it casually. He didn't expect that those 3 were Xiao Qi's senior brothers. Haha, this elder Xianqin lost 3 disciples at once, he'd have something to cry about. Oh no, it was 4. Even if Xiao Qi didn't die, he'd be crippled, and so Lin Yi didn't kill him. He thought about it and decided to let him live. Xiao Qi, do you know why I held back and didn't kill you? Chapter 33:26. But thinking about it, it was true. 3rd brother was killed, so if Lin Yi wanted to kill him, it would be a piece of cake. He really was being merciful. Go back and tell Xianqin that he better not get involved in my business. Lin Yi warned coldly. The Ice Palace people are people I want to protect, but if he wants all his disciples to die, that's fine too. He's welcome to come again. Yes. Yes. Did little 9 dare to say no now? He could only nod. Scram. Lin Yi waved his hand, telling little 9 to leave. I'll scram now, thank you for not killing me, Master Lin. Little 9 was very dejected. He came valiantly and left with his tail between his legs, and he even got a heavy injury that couldn't be healed. He'd probably end up like 4 and 5 when he got back. Throughout the whole process, Bingtang didn't say a word. She didn't know what she wanted to say or what she could say. Lin Yi's strength had truly surpassed Sky-class late phase peak. Otherwise, how could he kill a Sky-class late phase peak? Moreover, what happened in the Dark Night Palace was actually true. With little 9 in front of her, and with him admitting it himself, Bingtang didn't believe it before, but she had to believe it now. Lin Yi! Bingtang wanted to thank Lin Yi, but she couldn't say the word. Bingtang, little wife, we meet again. Lin Yi smiled. Who's your little wife? Bingtang's face reddened, but she suddenly realized that she didn't hate Lin Yi that much anymore. Was it because Lin Yi helped solve the problem? Or did she really worship the strong? Were those words she said in a fit of pique really her criteria for choosing a partner? Haha. Lin Yi smiled and didn't tease Bingtang anymore. He and Xiao Xiao had been apart for so long, so naturally, his mind was on her. Lin Yi held Xiao's hand. Xiao Xiao, how have you been this half a year? Are you alright? Not bad. Senior sister Bingtang is very good to me, and I'm doing well in the Ice Palace. But I really miss Lin Yi, hubby and Tang. Yao, little sister Shu. Xiao Xiao almost let it slip. She wasn't as experienced as Meng Yao and Yushu, and this was the first time she saw Lin Yi after Tang Yun left. She almost slipped up. Luckily, Lin Yi didn't mind as Xiao Xiao changed the topic to Bingtang. Lin Yi, honey, when are you going to marry her? She'll be your little sister then. Ahem. Xiao Xiao, what nonsense are you talking about? Crystal Candy jumped in fright. She thought that Xiao Xiao and Lin Yi were intimate, and she dodged the question for now, but it seemed like that wasn't the case at all. Xiao Xiao remembered it even more clearly than Lin Yi. What puzzled Crystal Candy was that Xiao Xiao wasn't jealous at all. Although everyone was at the ancient level and retained the ancient customs, there was also the concept of jealousy in ancient times, right? There were plenty of fights in the harem, after all. Haha, Crystal Candy, you didn't forget your promise, did you? Didn't you say it was nonsense back then? Linny looked at Crystal Candy with a smile that wasn't a smile on his face. He felt as if he was a serf singing a song. How proud was Crystal Candy the last time she came to the Ice Palace. But now, the two were on equal footing, and Linny was even stronger than her. Crystal Candy was speechless. Bing-Tang didn't know what to say. Yes, she admitted it herself, and she couldn't go back on her words now. She was the master of the Ice Palace, and she couldn't say it out loud. However, she wasn't willing to marry Lin Yi just like that. After all, those were just words she said out of anger, and there was no emotional foundation. She used to look at Lin Yi with a high and mighty attitude, because Lin Yi was a weakling in her eyes. But now, he had become the savior of the Ice Palace, and he was even more powerful than Bing-Tang. How could she accept this in such a short time? But without realizing it, her feelings towards Lin Yi had changed completely. She no longer looked down on Lin Yi, and instead, she was a little afraid. If it was before, she could just find a random reason to avoid Lin Yi's questioning, but now, she didn't dare say anything. Fortunately, Lin Yi didn't mean to make things difficult for her. He got down to business. Bing-Tang, let's talk about business first. I'll try my best to refine your ice-hard jade bone pellet for you, but I also agree to let Xiao Xiao accept the inheritance. Lin Yi's words made Xiao Xiao pause. She didn't understand why Lin Yi would suddenly agree to let her accept the inheritance. After all, Lin Yi's attitude was very firm, and now that Lin Yi had the power to talk to Crystal Candy, he had the power to change things. He compromised. Why was he doing this? Of course, Xiao Xiao hadn't contacted Meng Yao and Yushu in this period of time, so she didn't know what was going on at home. Crystal Candy was confused as well. She didn't understand why Lin Yi would agree to Xiao Xiao's request, even if he was going to make her an ice heart pill. Crystal Candy didn't understand. Crystal Candy, I'm going to say a few words to Xiao Xiao. I hope you won't spread it. Lin Yi looked at Crystal Candy and reminded her. With Crystal Candy's strength, even if Lin Yi went to the side and spoke, she wouldn't be able to hide anything. Who cares? You think I'm that gossipy? Crystal Candy pouted. Lin Yi turned to Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao, before I was actually very against the idea of being an inheritor, because the danger you'll face is unknown, but now… Actually, the people around me have all become inheritors, and I have to change my mind. I have the power to protect you guys. So, you guys are all inheritors, and you're also my girlfriends. Facing danger together, helping each other isn't a bad thing. Xiao Xiao was startled. She thought that Lin Yi already knew about Tang Yun. After all, the person beside Lin Yi was an inheritor, and Lin Yi's girlfriend. Who else could it be other than Tang Yun? Of course, she didn't know that Meng Yao had already left for the Dark Palace. Chapter 33-27. Humph! Crystal Candy humphed, a little pissed off. She knew what kind of person the Grand Elder of Dark Palace was with Lin Yi's strength. It'd be weird if the Grand Elder didn't try to get on his good side. It's fine. Isn't Senior Sister your little wife? Plus, I don't like dealing with palace stuff. Xiao Xiao didn't mind. But Yao Yao's sis is an heir too? That's amazing. But didn't Lin Yi Honey say she's his girlfriend? Don't tell me you and Yao Yao already. Yes, Yao Yao's my girlfriend now. What's even more amazing is that Shu's the fire heir of Flaming Mountain. She hasn't left yet, but she's not far from it, Lin Yi said. Shu too? Xiao Xiao was completely shocked. She didn't expect Lin Yi to have so many inheritors around him, all of them were connected to Lin Yi. Crystal Candy, on the other hand, was extremely shocked as well. She knew about Meng Yao, but she didn't know about Yushu. She couldn't imagine that Xiao Xiao, Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu were all women who had a close relationship with Lin Yi, and now that they were all inheritors, Lin Yi would be in charge of Sky Class Island. Who asked them to be Lin Yi's people? Yeah, so don't worry and accept the inheritance. Your training speed should be faster, Lin Yi said. Xiao Xiao was the first to accept the inheritance, but her training speed wasn't that fast. She'd been in the Ice Palace for half a year, and she was only Sky Class early phase, and that was with all the resources in the Ice Palace. How long had Meng Yao been in the Dark Palace? Evidently, accepting the inheritance was different from not accepting it. Okay, I understand. Xiao Xiao nodded and let out a sigh of relief. This was something she had been struggling with for a long time. She knew that there was no such thing as love without a reason. In the Ice Palace, he not only saved her life, he even promised to save her mother, and even gave her all the resources. What was all this for? Wasn't it all to make her an inheritor? But without Lin Yi's approval, Xiao Xiao didn't dare say yes. Now that Lin Yi had confirmed this, she'd be a lot more loyal in the Ice Palace. This is the first thing I came here for, Lin Yi said as he pointed at the person on his back. Only then did Xiao Xiao remember that Lin Yi was carrying someone on his back. Xiao Xiao didn't know who it was, but Lin Yi was carrying him here, so something must have happened. You carried Xiao Xiao on your back last time, don't tell me you need our help this time too? Crystal Candy frowned as she looked at Sun Yan on Lin Yi's back. I want to see Anqing alone. Crystal Candy, make the arrangements. Lin Yi didn't explain much, because Dongfang had told him to keep a low profile, and only say that Dongfang's identity was with Anqing. Don't let too many people know. All right. Crystal Candy was a little helpless at Lin Yi's tone. It was like she was his little girl, asking her to make the arrangements. Don't you know that I'm the sect master of the Ice Palace? You want to see Anqing, and you're not begging me, but asking me to make the arrangements? Of course, it was like that to other people, but to Lin Yi now, Crystal Candy didn't have any temper at all. It was like what Lin Yi said all those years ago. A hero shouldn't be afraid of a weak background. You could look down on Lin Yi back then, but you couldn't look down on the current Lin Yi. The winner was the king, and the loser was the thief. If Lin Yi didn't have the strength, he would have been kicked out already. Xiao Xiao paused. She didn't know why Lin Yi wanted to see Anqing alone. Could it be that only Anqing could save the person on Lin Yi's back? She didn't understand, but she knew that Lin Yi wouldn't hide things from her. Maybe it was to avoid Crystal Candy, so she didn't ask. After receiving the message from her disciple, Anqing quickly rushed over. When she heard from her disciple that Lin Yi had crippled an emissary of the Five Elements sect who was at the peak of the late phase of Heaven's stage and fled, she was a little surprised. It seemed that the previous rumors were true. Lin Yi really had such strength. But Anqing was different from Crystal Candy. She was happy. She thought highly of Lin Yi and felt that Lin Yi was a person with backbone. Now Lin Yi succeeded, which meant that her judgment was right. Lin Yi, you're looking for me? After Anqing arrived, she saw Lin Yi. Lin Yi was still the Lin Yi from before. From the appearance, there was no difference. Who would have thought that in half a year, there would be such a huge change? Yes, Anqing. Let's find a place to talk alone. Lin Yi nodded. With Lin Yi's words, Crystal Candy couldn't say anything. After Lin Yi and Anqing entered a separate living room, Crystal Candy and Xiao Xiao were together. Naturally, it wouldn't be good for them to eavesdrop. The two went to study the inheritance. Since Xiao Xiao had already agreed, this matter had to be done as soon as possible. Lily, I really didn't expect that in just half a year, you would have such strength now. I'm really happy for you, Anqing said sincerely, and then her face turned serious. She said seriously, why did you come to see me this time? Anqing, forgive me for being direct. Do you have a sister? Did she leave with Crystal Candy's master? Lin Yi asked slowly. Oh? How did you know? Anqing was very surprised when she heard Lin Yi's question. This matter was only known by a few people in the Ice Palace. No one else knew, so she was very curious. How did Lin Yi hear about it? Even Xiao Xiao didn't know, so it was even more impossible for Lin Yi to know. I have a senior. He told me, And he was the one who told me to come find you, Linny said. Senior? Aunt Qing was a little puzzled. Linny had a senior? Lin Yi's senior knew him? Wasn't Lin Yi a normal solo practitioner? Why was his senior also from the practitioner world? Yes, it's my grandpa. Lin Yi nodded. Your grandpa? Who is he? Aunt Qing was even more curious. His name is Lin Dongfang. Do you know him, Aunt Qing? Although Lin Yi was a little puzzled as to what kind of relationship Lin Dongfang had with Aunt Qing, since old Lin told him to come find him, then there must be a reason. So Lin Yi still said it. Chapter 33:28. I say, his name is Lin Dongfang. Do you know him, Aunt Qing? Lin Yi did not expect Aunt Qing to have such a huge reaction. This made him very puzzled. His name is Lin Dongfang? Lin Dongfang is your grandfather? At this moment, Aunt Qing lost her composure. Her eyes were filled with disbelief and shock, but more than that, there was excitement. There was news, there was finally news of him. However, Aunt Qing also had a faint sense of loss. He was married? Of course, his grandson was already so big. Lin Dongfang. It turned out that Lin Yi was not an ordinary wandering cultivator, but a wandering cultivator with a very strong background. Although in the ancient times, it was not uncommon to have a few wives and concubines, Aunt Qing was still not very happy. After all, Lin Dongfang said that with his situation, he could not consider personal issues, not that he did not like Aunt Qing. But now, not only was Lin Dongfang married, but even his grandson was so big. How could Aunt Qing be happy? Wasn't this a lie? So, at this moment, Aunt Qing was a little sad. So, he is already married. So, little E, you are his grandson. No wonder you are a hero, married? Lin Yi was stunned. Looking at Aunt Qing's resentful gaze, he seemed to think of something and could not help but smile bitterly. Could this be the old man's lover when he was young? However, it wasn't appropriate for a young person like Lin Yi to get involved in these things. He could only tell the truth. Aunt Qing, my grandpa isn't married. I'm an orphan that he adopted. He can be counted as my master, as well as my family. Ah? So that's how it is. Little Qing's originally disappointed eyes suddenly became bright at this moment. The gaze that looked at Lin Yi also became a lot more kind. Lin Yi was Lin Dongfang's godson. Wasn't that the same as her own? It seemed that helping Lin Yi in the past was really the right thing to do. Aunt Qing's voice trembled as she asked, Your grandfather, is he okay? Where is he? I don't know. He used a special method to contact me and told me to find you, but I don't know exactly what he is doing and what he is busy with. Although Lin Yi could see that the relationship between Aunt Qing and Lin Dongfang was definitely not ordinary, in order not to expose Lin Dongfang's whereabouts, he could only lie against his will. Ah, so that's how it is. Aunt Qing sighed. In fact, she had already guessed it. How could Lin Dongfang not have left with them? Grandpa said that it's fine for you to know about this. He doesn't want too many people to know. Lin Yi said. Oh? Okay. Aunt Qing was a little surprised. From the looks of it, Lin Yi didn't seem to know Lin Dongfang's power. He also didn't know what Lin Dongfang's grandson represented in the ancient era. If he had told Bingtang about his background, would Bingtang have dared to say those words? Obviously not, and Lin Yi claimed to be a wandering cultivator. A hero doesn't ask about his background. He probably didn't know Lin Dongfang's true strength. Then, it also proved that Lin Dongfang left when Lin Yi was very young. Lin Yi was still ignorant at that time. Aunt Qing, I came to find you this time because of the person on me. As Lin Yi spoke, he put Wang Xinyan on the sofa in the living room and said, I heard that your sister's physique is very similar to hers. Lin Yi didn't say the rest of the sentence because he didn't need to say it. He believed that Aunt Qing could understand what Lin Yi meant. Sure enough, Aunt Qing's expression became serious. She looked at Wang Xinyan on the sofa and said, You said that she also has a sponge physique? Linny nodded slowly and told Anqing about Wang Xinyan's situation from beginning to end in detail. He also emphasized the matter of the orchid jade grass. In that case, if there are no accidents, it should be this kind of physique. After listening, Anqing nodded slowly. You came to find me to find a solution, right? That's right. With this layer of relationship with Lin Dongfang, Lin Yi became closer to Anqing. He spoke more naturally. I heard that Anqing's sister also had this kind of physique. Then, on the road of cultivation, she had extraordinary achievements. Little Yi, since you are Dongfang's godson, you are the same as my junior. I will spare no effort in this matter to help you, Anqing said. But although I know my sister's situation very well, you have to know that her success can't be replicated. What do you mean? Lin Yi was stunned. Back then, with the help of the Ice Palace's old palace master, my sister found a cultivation ground blessed by the heavens. Coupled with the mantra, she was able to quickly increase her strength and become a peak late-stage heaven realm expert. Anqing said. However, that unique training ground contained limited heaven and earth spiritual energy. My sister used up more than half of it. Later, Palace Mistress Bing Tang also cultivated there. Together with the cultivation of some disciples, that place was almost the same as an ordinary place. There was nothing special about it. In other words, without a training ground, just a mantra is useless, right? Lin Yi frowned. Yes, Anqing said with certainty. So that's how it is. Lin Yi sighed slightly. This was very similar to what Lin Dongfang expected. In a place with abundant heaven and earth energy, Wang Xinyan could recover. Even if she didn't train, she could still live. But the problem now was, where could they find such a place? Lin Yi pondered for a moment and couldn't help but ask. Is there no substitute? Must it be a place with abundant heaven and earth energy? There seems to be another way. Let me think. With that, Anqing closed her eyes and fell into deep thought. Lin Yi didn't dare to disturb her. He quietly waited for Anqing's answer. This was Lin Yi's only hope. Lin Yi didn't think that Wang Xinyan's physique would be so complicated. But no matter what, Wang Xinyan's problem was because of him. If he didn't absorb the fragrance in her body, Wang Xinyan would still be safe. At most, she couldn't expose her physique, and she couldn't become a practitioner. But even if she exposed her physique now, so what? If Wang Xinyan wanted to become a practitioner, she needed a place with abundant heaven and earth energy. It wasn't a place where she could train just because she wanted to. Chapter 33-29. Energy stones? Are they white? Lin Yi paused and quickly asked. Not bad, it seems like you know about them. I thought you wouldn't know about such an ancient thing. I guess it was your grandfather who told you. Anqing thought it was Lin Yi who told her, but Lin Yi didn't explain much. How many white energy stones do you need? Lin Yi listened to Anqing and calmed down a little. He was ready to go to Hakonamata Desert to find the Bubbly clan. If everything went smoothly, he could trade for some white energy stones, but Lin Yi didn't know the exact amount. In any case, Lin Yi would supply Wang Xinyan first. As for Han Jingjing's cauldron, so what if he didn't earn money from it? It's hard to say. If it was a normal practitioner, with such a large energy stone, it wouldn't be a problem to cultivate to the mystic or earth class. As Anqing spoke, she gestured with her hand. It was roughly the size of Uncle Fu's stone. She then continued. But this kind of spongy physique is a lot more. If you want to cultivate to the yellow class, you'll need at least 30 to 50. What? Lin Yi was shocked. 30 to 50? What kind of joke was this? And it was only golden class. If he needed so many energy stones when he just stepped on the path of training, then how much would he need to train on the internet? Lin Yi guessed that he should be able to trade for energy stones from the Bubbly clan, but with so many, Lin Yi wasn't sure. So Lin Yi asked for the next best thing. What if it's just to maintain a lifetime of peace and not training? Then you'll need about 10. Anqing said. Of course, this is just an estimate. There might be some discrepancies. Phew. 10 is not bad. Linny nodded. This time, no matter what price he had to pay, Linny would bring back 10 energy stones from the Bubbly clan, and the clan should have 10 extra. You have this kind of energy stone? Aunt Ching was surprised. This thing had been gone for hundreds of years. Where would Linny get it? No, but I plan to go to Hakunamata Desert to find the Bubbly clan and trade with them, Linny said. So that's how it is. Aunt Ching obviously knew about the Bubbly clan. If that's the case, I can only wish you success. Aunt Ching can't help you too much. I can only provide you with this information. However, if you want to cultivate, you can also try to find a way to see if elder sister left behind any cultivation methods and mnemonics. You haven't found it yet? Linny thought that Aunt Ching had the cultivation method, but it seemed like she didn't. There should be, but I can't be sure. That's because none of us can cultivate this mantra. It's useless even if we get it. So, after my sister left, I didn't deliberately look for it, Aunt Ching explained. Linny nodded. Then I won't bother you anymore. I have to go back and prepare to go to Hakunamata Desert. All right, Linny nodded. I won't disturb you then. I have to go back and prepare to go to Hakunamata Desert. All right. Aunt Ching nodded and hesitated for a moment before saying, If there is news of your grandfather, tell Aunt Ching about it, okay? Linny smiled bitterly in his heart. Old Lin didn't want him to say anything, so he really didn't dare. Linny found Aunt Ching and got a relatively good answer, but whether or not Linny could find the Bubbly clan, and if he did, whether or not the deal would go through was still unknown. Linny had things on his mind, and naturally, he wouldn't stay long in the Ice Palace. After saying goodbye to Xiao Xiao, he said goodbye to Aunt Ching and Rock Candy and left the Ice Palace. It hadn't even been a day in the Ice Palace, and Xiao Xiao didn't want to leave, but she knew Lin Yi's character. Didn't Lin Yi go around seeking medical help for her? So she didn't want to waste Lin Yi's precious time. Riding on the purple thunderbolt beast, Lin Yi returned to Dahai. Lin Yi came and went in a hurry, and Yushu was very surprised that Lin Yi got home so quickly. Shield bro, did you see Xiao Xiao? Can Sinyan sis be saved? Yushu asked, but her heart sank when she saw the unconscious Sinyan. There was no way Lin Yi would have carried Sinyan back if there was a way to save her. Yes, but it's a bit troublesome. I'm preparing to go to Hakunamata Desert tomorrow. Sinyan will stay at home and won't be coming. Shoo, that place is pretty close to Fiery Mountain. Do you want to go and have a look? Lin Yi paused for a moment. I think I'll pass. I'll drag it out as long as I can. Don't I have to take care of Sinyan sis at home? Hua Mingyun of Flaming Mountain was Lin Yi's follower, but Yishu didn't want to be separated from him. She didn't know when she'd be back, and she was afraid that she'd have to stay at Flaming Mountain. All right. Lin Yi understood Yushu's thoughts, and he didn't force it. After returning to his room, Lin Yi started pondering. Who should he bring with him this time? Hakunamata Desert was filled with unknown dangers, and to be honest, the best person Lin Yi could bring was Udake. He'd been there once before, and while he didn't find the exact location of the white energy stone, he was very familiar with it. It was better than Lin Yi looking for it alone. With that in mind, Lin Yi dialed Udake's number. Mr. Lin? Udake was very surprised when he received Lin Yi's call. Lin Yi was his savior, and also the person who helped his sister. He'd always wanted to find a chance to meet up with Lin Yi again, but as Lin Yi's status rose, Lin Yi was no longer the person who relied on luck to escape from the hidden houses. During the Hidden House Summit, if it wasn't for Lin Yi's luck, he wouldn't have been able to escape from the attacks of the hidden houses. But now, Lin Yi didn't care about the hidden houses anymore. He'd be able to trample on the ancient houses, right? He heard that Lin Yi could instantly kill a Sky-class late-phase peak master. What kind of power was that? The gap between Udake and Lin Yi was getting bigger and bigger, and Udake was too embarrassed to contact Lin Yi anymore. It's me, Dake. How have you been? Are you doing well at House U? Lin Yi asked. Chapter 3330. However, he didn't know what other arrangements Lin Yi had. He was afraid that after leaving, he wouldn't have anything else to do. How about this? I'll talk to you, Coiling Tiger, and then you can come to my villa to find me. I have something to talk to you about, Lin Yi said. Okay, Mr. Lin. Udake was surprised and happy. He was willing to have a relationship with Lin Yi. Who wouldn't want to follow a powerful person? With Udake's qualifications and the strength of the Yu clan, it would be very difficult to go further. Therefore, following Lin Yi was a shortcut. After hanging up the phone, Lin Yi directly called Yu Coiling Tiger. Isn't this Boss Lin Yi? What's the matter? Although Yu Coiling Tiger was unhappy with Lin Yi, he absolutely didn't dare to say it out loud. Now, he didn't have any thoughts of revenge against Lin Yi. When the difference in strength between the two was too great, and even Yu Coiling Tiger's backer couldn't do anything to Lin Yi, what thoughts did Yu Coiling Tiger have? Obviously not. He didn't want to die, he didn't want to implicate the hidden Yu clan. I want someone from you, Lin Yi said. Yu Coiling Tiger was shocked and said with a bitter face. Boss Lin Yi, what person do you want? Don't accuse me wrongly. How would I dare to kidnap someone from you? Yu Coiling Tiger obviously misunderstood. He thought that Lin Yi said that he kidnapped Lin Yi's friend. In the past, he didn't know fear and dared to kidnap Guan Xin with Kong Mingming. But now, how would he dare? Even if he ate 100 Qi gathering pills and became a peak late-stage heaven-class master, he still wouldn't dare to act rashly in front of Lin Yi. Even a peak late-stage heaven-class master would die in Lin Yi's hands. Don't say these useless things. There's a person called Udake, right? Lin Yi asked. Udake? There seems to be. Right, Coiling Tiger was stunned. He thought for a moment and said, Boss Lin Yi, are you talking about this person? Did he offend you? This person is just a guest disciple of our Yu family. He's not a member of our Yu family. I'm going to punish him now. I'm not asking you to punish him. I'm looking for him for something else. Lin Yi interrupted Pan Huyu's words and said, He's been working for your family for many years, right? Give him something good and let him come to me. Sure, no problem. Right, Pan Hu quickly agreed after listening. It was not easy for a guest to leave the family, let alone be given travel expenses. This was a treatment that could only be obtained after making great contributions. However, when Lin Yi spoke, Yu Panhu agreed without thinking because in his opinion, this was a small matter. If the Yu family really provoked Lin Yi, it would be a big deal. Lin Yi didn't talk much nonsense with Panhu. He hung up the phone and waited for Udake to come to the door. Udake's speed was not slow. Of course, this was also thanks to the hidden Yu family's villa not far from Lin Yi's villa. Udake? How come it's you? Yushu was watching TV in the living room. Someone knocked on the door. She walked over and opened the door. When she saw Udake, she was a little strange. Shu, hello. Mr. Lin Yi asked me to come. Is he here? Udake asked politely. Oh, Shield Bro is in the bedroom. I'll call him for you. However, before Yushu could speak, Lin Yi pushed the door open and walked out. Udake, you're here. Sit down and talk. Lin Yi made a gesture to Udake. Okay, Mr. Lin, I don't know why you asked me to come. Udake was actually a little puzzled. Why did Lin Yi suddenly ask him to come here? It's like this. I'm going to the Hakanamada Desert. To put it bluntly, it's to find the kind of energy stone you gave me. Lin Yi didn't beat around the bush and directly stated his purpose. I haven't been there, but you've been there once. So, if we go together, it will be much easier with you as a guide. Of course, no problem. Udake agreed almost without thinking. He had always been grateful to Lin Yi in his heart. He was worried that he didn't have a chance to repay Lin Yi. Now that Lin Yi had something to ask of him, how could he refuse? It's good that there's no problem. Lin Yi nodded and said, Then you pack up, we'll leave tomorrow. That's fine, but can I bring another person with me? Udake hesitated. He knew that it wasn't good to ask Lin Yi. After all, he was looking for him to lead the way for treasure hunting. What was wrong with bringing another person? Did he want a share of the loot? But Udake really didn't think so. He had his own thoughts and goals, so he still asked tentatively. Oh? Who are you bringing? Linny frowned slightly. Although he didn't directly refuse, his tone was a little unhappy. He didn't want too many people to know that he was going to the Hakonamada Desert, but Udake had Yoshioka's relationship, so Linny had to give him face. Udake wasn't a blind person. He saw Lin Yi's unhappy face and suddenly felt a little awkward. He rubbed his hands and said carefully, Actually, I want to bring my sister Shioka with me. If it's too difficult, then forget it, Shioka? Linny paused and smiled. Why didn't you say so earlier? Of course, she can go, but what's the use of bringing her? It's like this. Don't I have a secret art passed down in my family? My home used to be in the Hakuna Mata Desert. The absolute study is hidden in the Hakuna Mata Desert. I want Shioka to go there because of the absolute study. Udake did not hide and directly stated his purpose. Oh? Shioka's strength is weaker. Can she go with us? How about we take the secret art back and give it to her? To be honest, Linny was a little worried. He was afraid that Shioka's strength was weak and she would encounter some danger. That's not impossible, but according to some information passed down by my family, if I were to practice the first level of the unique skill in my family, it would be easier to get started. I won't need it in the future, Udake said. Chapter 33-31. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lin, Udake said happily. Actually, even if Lin Yi didn't go to Hakonamada Desert, he still wanted to find a chance to go there. However, he didn't plan on looking for energy stones. He just wanted to get Shioka's practitioner's arts chant. The reason why he didn't bring Shioka was because he wasn't that strong, but Lin Yi was different. Lin Yi could kill a sky-class late-phase peak in one hit. He had enough power to protect Shioka, so even if there was danger, Lin Yi would be there. Udake said goodbye to Lin Yi and left the villa, getting into a Wrangler off-road vehicle. It was a gift from Right Panhu, so at least he had a means of transportation. Recently, Shioka had finally caught her breath. The construction of the orphanage had reached a certain scale, and it was now the largest charity home in the province. Not only did they provide for abandoned babies, but they also provided free medical aid for families who were in trouble. One had to know that some parents abandoned sick babies not because they were heartless, but because they really didn't have the money to treat them. Instead of letting their children die in their own home, they might as well try their luck and see if a kind-hearted person would pick them up, raise them, and treat them. If they could cure the child, they wouldn't abandon the child, and so Shioka's orphanage provided free aid to this group of families. The construction of the medical building in the orphanage had already been completed. Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company was in this industry. Building a hospital, and with Guan Xiaomin's position in the medical school, many students would join this hospital. Moreover, with Guan Xiaomin's son Guan Xiaoxiang's rich experience in running a hospital, it would be easy for him to send a director who knew how to manage. So, even though the orphanage's hospital was newly built, its technical level wasn't bad at all. There were many people coming and going. What surprised Shioka the most was that there was a huge amount of money in the orphanage's account. This money was transferred from abroad, and although this was a public donation account, there was a limit to how much they could donate. Each donation was in the tens of millions, but now it was in the hundreds of millions, and it was in euros. Shioka didn't know what to do with this. Who would donate such a huge amount of money? Shioka might believe it if it was a donation from within the country, but she didn't believe it if it was from overseas. How could foreigners know about her orphanage? Even if they knew, they wouldn't donate this much, right? And so, Shioka instinctively thought that this money had something to do with Lin Yi, but she didn't rule out the possibility that it was the male thief who sent it. She didn't know why, but she felt that it was more likely to be Lin Yi. Sometimes, Shioka had to admit that the male thief didn't give her as much money as Lin Yi did. So, the more she thought about calling Lin Yi, the more she wanted to ask him if he was the one who got the money. But Xiaoke was afraid that Lin Yi would become arrogant and ask for more from her that would put Xiaoke in an even more difficult position. But Xiaoke wasn't someone who didn't know how to repay favors. She hesitated and called Lin Yi, but Lin Yi's phone was turned off. Helpless, Lin Yi could only ask Fatty Lai. Fatty Lai couldn't find Lin Yi, so he called Yushu and learned that Lin Yi went overseas to Europe. Fatty Lai told Xiaoke about it. This time, Xiaoke didn't doubt it anymore. Lin Yi must have gotten the money. But the more she thought about it, the more she felt that she owed Lin Yi. Logically speaking, this money was for the orphanage, and Xiaoke didn't spend a single cent herself. She had every reason to treat Lin Yi as a good person, and there was no need for her to feel conflicted. There were so many foundations in the world, and if the person in charge of each foundation were to feel conflicted about the donors, it would be a mess, wouldn't it? But Xiaoke saw herself as a member of the orphanage. Even if the money wasn't spent on her, she still felt that it was for her. This was the main reason why Xiaoke was worried. Now, the orphanage was finally on the right track, and Xiaoke wasn't as busy as before. To put it bluntly, she was of little use now. The orphanage was on the right track, and she didn't need to think of ways to get funds anymore. But the more idle she was, the more she was afraid that Lin Yi would find her. And so, Xiaoke lived her days in a dilemma. Today, an uninvited guest came to her office. Xiaoke looked carefully, and realized that it was her brother. "Brother, why are you here?" Xiaoke was pleasantly surprised. Her brother hadn't come back since he left last time. Xiaoke missed him, but she didn't know how to contact him. She wanted to ask Lin Yi, but she was afraid of walking into a tiger's mouth. "Xiaoke, how have you been recently? I didn't expect this orphanage to be this big." "The last time you came, the orphanage wasn't this big." "Not bad. Brother, how about you?" Xiaoke asked. "I've left the hidden house I'm free now, and I can spend more time with you in the future." "But Xiaoke, are you free? I'm going back to our old home tomorrow. Are you free? If you are, let's go together." Udake didn't have much time to waste since they had to leave tomorrow morning. He had to talk to Xiaoke about it at night. "Ah? Home?" Xiaoke was adopted by the headmaster when she was young. She didn't remember much at that time, so she didn't have much of a concept of home. Now that Udake brought it up, she naturally wanted to go back and see her home. A real home. "It's okay. I'm not too busy these days. Are we leaving tomorrow? Isn't it a bit rushed? Although many things are on the right track, I still need to make some arrangements." "Yes, tomorrow. This time, Mr. Lin is looking for me. We'll go back together. Mr. Lin is in a hurry, so we have to go to Donghai City first thing in the morning and leave with him," Udake said. Chapter 33-32. And so, Xiaoke's face darkened. "What is he going to do? Bro, can't we go back ourselves? What's wrong with Lin Yi going back? I don't want him to go with us." Ahem. Dake paused, knowing that Xiaoke had misunderstood. He quickly explained. "Xiaoke, Mr. Lin's main goal isn't to go home with us. He has something to do in the desert nearby. I think that it's closer to our home, so I suggested bringing you along." "Ah? Really?" Xiaoke didn't believe him. "He's going to do something, why would he look for you?" "Xiaoke, you misunderstood. Mr. Lin likes you, but he doesn't have any other intentions," Dake quickly explained. He didn't want his sister to misunderstand him as her savior. "Actually, it's like this, I have to start from the treasure map I gave him." With that, Dake told Xiaoke about the white energy stone and the treasure map. He didn't tell Xiaoke about these things in detail before. After all, they met in a hurry and didn't have the chance to talk about these things. Then, Dake told her about the family heirloom art and his request to bring Xiaoke along. He told her about the benefits of training at home. After that, Xiaoke realized that she had misunderstood Lin Yi. It seemed like she had a huge prejudice against him, but if he didn't like her and wanted to pursue her, would she misunderstand? "I see." Xiaoke was a little embarrassed, but the person in front of her was her brother. It wasn't Lin Yi, so she didn't mind. Then, Let's go, but if Linny wants to get close to me, you have to help me block him. I'll try my best. Udake was actually quite optimistic about Linny and his sister being together, but his sister already had someone she liked. This was a difficult thing to handle, and Udake wasn't sure what to do. Since Shioka had decided to go, she got busy and arranged things for the orphanage. She let Xiao Ken temporarily take over her position as vice principal, in charge of the operations of the orphanage. The next morning, Shioka sat in Dake's car and went to Dahai City, in front of Lin Yi's villa. Shioka frowned as she looked at Lin Yi's villa. Such a big villa, how much did it cost? It'd be better if it was given to the orphanage. Shioka's voice was soft, but Udake was a practitioner. There was no one else in the car, so of course he heard it clearly. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. Udake knew how much money Yoshioka's orphanage had after chatting with Yoshioka last night. It was a lot of money, and it was impossible to spend it all. Yoshioka was still thinking about other people's villas. Udake was speechless. However, Xiaoka was just saying it. She was that kind of person, spending every cent she had in half. She did her best for the orphanage. Xiaoka, come with me and wait for Mr. Lin, Dake said to Xiaoka after parking the car. He's a big figure, do I have to wait for him? Xiaoka said, but still got off the car. After all, Lin Yi donated so much money to the orphanage. Even if Xiaoka didn't like him, she had to put on an act, right? Lin Yi heard the car in the yard and came out of the villa. He saw Dake with a smile and Xiaoka with a depressed face. He found it funny that Xiaoka was still treating him like an enemy. Drive my car! Your car is a little small, Lin Yi said and pointed at the Jeep Cherokee in the yard. Okay, I'll drive. Dake had the awareness of being a follower. His life was given to him by Lin Yi, and it was only right for him to be at Lin Yi's beck and call. However, Xiaoka was a little annoyed wasn't her brother being too attentive. What if he sold himself out? Dake got on the car, and Lin Yi wanted to sit in the back and talk to Xiaoka about the orphanage. After all, Lin Yi had given the orphanage some money through Heluan, and there was a box of money in his jade space. He wanted to give all of it to Xiaoka, but Xiaoka wasn't happy about it. I'm going to sleep in the back later, you can sit in the front. Xiaoka wasn't being unreasonable, but she was afraid that Lin Yi would touch her in the back. How would she deal with him then? She couldn't fall out with Lin Yi, but she couldn't tolerate it either, right? So, Xiaoka still thought that Lin Yi should sit in the front. Dake started the car and drove towards the direction of Hakunamata Desert. Lin Yi could ride the purple lightning beast, but it couldn't fit so many people, so it was more convenient to drive. Dake was helpless against Xiaoka's lack of respect. Xiaoka, Mr. Lin is sitting in the back because he wants to discuss the orphanage with you. He was helping Lin Yi, but how would he know that Lin Yi really thought that way? It was just that Dake wanted to create an opportunity for Lin Yi. Can't we talk like that? Xiaoka said. Haha, it's nothing much. Did you receive the money from before? It's from abroad, Lin Yi asked. Yes, it's you, thank you. Xiaoka thought that it was Lin Yi, but the more it was like this, the more unhappy she was. After all, she owed Lin Yi more and more. I have a box of money here, I'll give it to you too, it's from abroad. With that, Lin Yi took out the money pouch from the jade space. Right, this is in euros as well, but it shouldn't be too hard for you, right? The box of money I gave you at the market was in foreign currencies as well. Lin Yi suddenly stopped talking, because Lin Yi realized that he got the wrong identity. At the cultivator's market, Lin Yi was the male thief in front of Xiaoka, not Lin Yi. What market did you give me a box of foreign currency? Xiaoka froze and looked at Lin Yi, confused. However, even though she was confused, she was shocked when Lin Yi took out a big bag of money. Where did the money come from? Lin Yi didn't take the money when he got in the car, did he leave it in the front passenger seat? The car was parked in the yard, wasn't he afraid of losing it? Chapter 33-33. Plus, how could her brother not see it when he got in the car? It's fine, I meant that I transferred a bunch of foreign currency to your bank account. The orphanage is getting bigger now, and you guys are getting a lot of donations. The foreign currency isn't that eye-catching anymore, Lin Yi said, covering it up. It wasn't that Lin Yi was careless, but Lin Yi didn't have the concept. After all, the person was Lin Yi. It was normal for Lin Yi to get confused after a while. Oh, that's a lot of money. The money from before is more or less enough. The orphanage has passed the period of rapid development, and we're stabilizing. We don't need so much money anymore. Shioka didn't know if she should take the money or not. She would feel uneasy if she took the money. Ha! You take it first. It's a second-level automatic cauldron. It's still unknown. I'm afraid that Lu Jinghan and Fatty Lai's business will shrink, and we won't have enough money to support you guys, Lin Yi said. Oh. Then. I can't take so much money. Shioka was tempted by Lin Yi's words. But how was she going to take so much money? Oh, I'll give it to you when we get back. Lin Yi threw the bag of money into the jade space. If Shioka didn't see it clearly before, she was shocked now. Where did the money go? Shioka's eyes widened, but she couldn't figure out where Lin Yi hid the money. Was this a magic trick? Even magic tricks couldn't be this powerful, right? One had to know that close-range magic required props and support, but Lin Yi was different. Her brother was driving, and Shioka just stood there and watched as the bag of money disappeared. There was only so much space in the car, and there was no place to hide the money. This didn't fit the laws of space science. Your money! Where did it go? Shioka asked curiously. I'm not telling you, Lin Yi said. He wanted to tease Shioka. In fact, Udake was also puzzled. How did the money disappear when Lin Yi changed hands? Could it be a ghost? However, Udake didn't ask about these things. Anyway, he knew that Lin Yi was outstanding. On the other hand, Shioka paused and asked curiously after hearing Lin Yi's words. Where did he go? That's impossible, Shioka said as she looked at the front passenger seat. She didn't see the bag of money from before, which made her even more confused. Hee hee, I only tell my own people. If you want to be my girlfriend, I will tell you. Lin Yi laughed. Humph. Shioka's face changed. I don't want to know anymore. Lin Yi smiled faintly and didn't say anything else. After all, he couldn't tell others about the jade space. Even if Lin Yi trusted Shioka, he couldn't, so he used this reason to stop Shioka from asking. The car moved forward slowly. Udake's driving skills were quite good, and he knew the roads well. The journey was uneventful, and Shioka evidently didn't want to talk to Lin Yi. She fell asleep as soon as they got on the road. One reason was that she was really tired. She'd been busy with the orphanage all this time, and now that she could finally relax, she naturally wanted to rest. Second, she really didn't know what to say to Lin Yi. Thank Lin Yi? She was very grateful, but what if Lin Yi asked her to marry him? Udake was helpless about this, but he knew that he couldn't control his sister's thoughts. He didn't dare to offend Lin Yi, so he could only drive quietly. Dake, is your family from the Hakunamata Desert? Lin Yi asked. That's right, I grew up there. Udake sighed as he recalled the events of the past. Back then, he was also the young master of a practitioner family. Although his family couldn't be said to be particularly large, it was at least stronger than the current hidden families. It could even be compared to the ancient families. But because he offended a group of people, his whole family was killed. Fortunately, Udake had taken his sister out to play and wasn't at home, so he had escaped the disaster. However, when he carried his sleeping sister home, he saw from afar that the group of people had killed his parents, family, uncles, and siblings. Not a single one was spared. At that time, Udake was very indignant, but he was also deeply helpless. He clenched his fists tightly, but he didn't dare to make the slightest movement. Although he wanted to rush over and stop these people's evil deeds, he also knew that he couldn't stop them with his own strength. He was just a child who had just entered the path of cultivation. How could he compete with these people? So, what he could do was to remember the faces of these people and bury this hatred in his heart. Back then, he secretly swore that one day, he would definitely take revenge. However, as he grew older, Udake deeply understood a principle, and that was that his strength was really too low. After so many years, he was still just an Earth-class expert. His achievements were just a guest of the hidden U family. He wasn't even as strong as a secular family. How could he take revenge with just this? After so many years, he didn't even know who his enemies were, let alone take revenge. Sometimes, people had to face reality. When their ability was seriously insufficient, they could only give up some ideas in their hearts. Udake used to be like this. He knew that if he continued to mingle in the U family, he might not be able to take revenge for the rest of his life. This was also the reason why he wanted to commit suicide when he was seriously injured. But when he met Lin Yi, hope was reignited. If the rumors in the pugilistic world were true during this period of time, that Lin Yi could instantly kill an expert with the strength of the peak late stage of heaven class, then Lin Yi would be a peak existence in the entire cultivation world. Even an expert at the peak of perfection would not dare to boast that he could instantly kill an expert with the strength of the peak late stage of heaven class. However, Udake also knew that Lin Yi only treated him as an ordinary friend. This was also because of Yoshioka. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him and Lin Yi to cross paths in the future. Therefore, in fact, in the depths of Udake's heart, he was still inclined to let Yoshioka follow Lin Yi. First, Lin Yi was the savior of their family. Second, Lin Yi had the ability to take revenge for their family. Chapter 33-34. Udake couldn't force his sister to do it for vengeance. That was an action blinded by hatred. Udake had calmed down after so many years. Thinking of all these, Udake sighed lightly. But that's all in the past. Let's not talk about it. There seems to be a story behind it? Lin Yi looked at Udake. He could hear a faint sadness in Udake's tone. In fact, Lin Yi vaguely knew about Udake's past. He was probably a person with a story. At this time, the journey was still long, and Yoshioka didn't speak. So, Lin Yi and Udake could only chat together. I won't hide it from you, Mr. Lin. Actually, my family was annihilated. Udake wanted to ask for help from Lin Yi, but he didn't know how to ask. Now that Lin Yi took the initiative to ask, he naturally didn't hide it anymore. He told the story to Lin Yi, hoping that Lin Yi would be merciful enough to help him. What? Yoshioka was sleeping, but she suddenly sat up with a pale face. It seemed that Yoshioka wasn't asleep at all. She was just pretending to sleep because she didn't want to talk to Lin Yi. But now, she heard that her family was annihilated. She couldn't pretend to sleep anymore. Lin Yi, on the other hand, frowned slightly. He didn't expect Udake to have such a tragic experience. Annihilation? Then you and Xiaoke. At that time, I was only 4 years old. I took Xiaoke out to play and escaped a calamity. Xiaoke didn't remember anything at that time, but I remember everything that happened at that time. Udake couldn't help but sigh. He continued, Originally, this matter has been buried in my heart, so I didn't tell Xiaoke so much. But now, since it has come to this, I won't hide it anymore. Who did it? Lin Yi asked. What's the reason? I'm not too sure about the specifics. It seems that they offended someone. I was too young, and I couldn't remember the reason. I could only barely remember the faces of the leaders. Udake shook his head helplessly. But after I grew up, I kept asking for their whereabouts, but there was no news. After all, our family was in the foreign land at that time, and we weren't close to the practitioners in Huaxia. They didn't even hear of the foreign land's U house, so they wouldn't know who our enemies were. Lin Yi nodded. There were too many grudges in the ancient world, and these weren't things that Lin Yi could see. Every era had its own strong people, but these strong people had different personalities. Some bullied the weak, and some didn't offend others if they didn't offend them. Just like the current Lin Yi, he wouldn't take the initiative to bully others, but if this person offended him, then Lin Yi would take action. Of course, in many cases, Lin Yi would still give the other party a chance, but the other party didn't know how to grasp it. Udake's family might have been bullied by others, or it could have been that Udake's family had offended someone they couldn't afford to offend, resulting in the current situation. If it was the former, then there was a possibility that Lin Yi would choose to help. After all, he had a relationship with Yoshioka. But if it was the latter, then Lin Yi wouldn't stand up for them. Lin Yi wasn't an unreasonable person, and if House Yu really offended someone else and got annihilated, then it could only be said that they were unlucky. In the world of cultivation, the weak are prey to the strong. That's the logic, Lin Yi said faintly. Sometimes you don't have to care too much. For example, the common House Yu and the hidden House Zhao were annihilated because of me, but this matter can't be said to be my fault for bullying them. If they didn't provoke me, I wouldn't have provoked them. Mr. Lin, I understand what you mean, but House Yu's family motto is to help others. Helping others is helping ourselves. I may be young, but my parents taught me that as a person of the martial world, we must have a chivalrous heart. When others are in trouble, we must lend a helping hand. How could a family like this bully others? It's completely different from the common House Yu and the hidden House Zhao. They deserved it, but we... Yu Dake naturally understood what Lin Yi meant, so he quickly explained. Oh? Lin Yi was slightly surprised. He didn't expect House Yu to be like this. But this was similar to Yu Xiaoka's personality. Perhaps Yu Xiaoka had inherited her personality from her family? Although she didn't know much at that time, some things were naturally like this. So, Lin Yi unconsciously believed Yu Dake's words. Moreover, he didn't think that Yu Dake had a reason to lie to him. After all, if this matter was really investigated, with Lin Yi's level, he would be able to find out. Lin Yi's current level was different from Yu Dake's. His power was limited to the hidden level, and it was limited to the hidden House of Yu. But Lin Yi was different now. Lin Yi was a famous figure in the ancient level, and he had Gu Xian, who was a spy. Dake, there's something I have to tell you. Perhaps it was because of this that your family was annihilated. Although Lin Yi's words weren't pleasant to hear, he had his own thoughts. Oh? Why? Did I do something wrong? Yu Xiaoka wasn't happy. Her family was annihilated. It was a very sad thing, but wasn't Lin Yi mocking her? Yu Xiaoka, then let me ask you. Why were you surrounded by a group of thieves in the past? You stole money to do a good deed, but they didn't think so. They felt that you broke their rules, so they gave you trouble. Lin Yi said faintly. Perhaps your family helped others in the past, but became a thorn in their side. Ah? Yu Xiaoka was shocked. Yes, she thought too simply. After hearing what Lin Yi said, she understood that her family might have made a mistake because they helped others. Chapter 33-35. Dake, don't be disappointed. If that's the case, I can see if I can help you. After all, it's not your fault. Lin Yi waved his hand and said, I hate families like the hidden Zhao family, but not families like yours. Ah. Thank you, Mr. Lin. Yu Dake was surprised and happy. He thought that he had no chance of revenge at all. He didn't expect that Lin Yi would actually agree to his revenge. Although Lin Yi's words had preconditions, Yu Dake knew his family well. They wouldn't take the initiative to cause trouble. Therefore, this matter was definitely not far from the truth. In the Hakunamata Desert, there was a very solemn castle. Of course, people who didn't know would think that it was a virtual image similar to a mirage. After all, these things were very common in the desert. However, this castle really existed. This was the location of the Paoli clan. They lived in the Hakunamata Desert. Today, there were 2 uninvited guests standing in front of the castle. These 2 uninvited guests were Kong Mingming and Little One from the 5 Elements sect. They were ordered by Ancestor Xianxin to come here and reach a deal with the Paoli clan. Brother Kong, it seems that the navigation given by that old thing is quite accurate. Little One pointed to a GPS device in Kong Mingming's hand and said in surprise. Of course, it's pure idiot who doesn't use advanced technology. In other words, that idiot Lin Yi is still following the map. Kong Mingming said proudly. If it weren't for our people here, we really wouldn't have been able to come here so quickly. If Lin Yi had come first, it would have been difficult. Yes. Now it seems that we should be quite fast. Little One nodded. Who are you? This is a private restricted area. Please don't go any further. Please return quickly. Just as the two were talking, a strange-looking man with pointy ears and triangular eyes wearing a totem quietly appeared in front of Kang Xiaoming and Little Yi and scolded them. Kang Mingming and Little One were startled by the appearance of this man in totem robes. This person was actually an expert at the peak of the late stage of heaven rank. He was an expert on the same level as Xiao Yi. That's right, the man in the totem attire had taken the initiative to reveal his strength. In his opinion, if these two people were cultivators, they would definitely be able to sense his strength. Since they were intimidated, they wouldn't act rashly. If they were just ordinary people, then even if they didn't reveal their strength, ordinary people wouldn't be able to sense it. They would only be able to sense some sort of majesty. Brother, are you an expert of the Bubble Fire clan? We're cultivators from the central plains of the eastern lands, and we're on our way to your clan to discuss something with you. Kang Mingming calmed himself down and carefully cupped his fists. Oh? Cultivators from the central plains? The man in the totem attire was stunned and couldn't help but frown. Which sect are you from? The Bubble Fire clan and the cultivators from the central plains hadn't been in contact for hundreds of years. At this time, the man in the totem attire was naturally a little strange when two people suddenly appeared. However, since it was a special visit, the man in the totem attire had to ask about their origins. We're from the Five Elements sect. This is our eldest senior brother, the eldest disciple of the acting head of the Five Elements sect, Ancestor Xianqin. As for me, I'm the son-in-law of Ancestor Xianqin, Kang Mingming said. When it came to the matter of the sect head, Kang Mingming really didn't dare to talk nonsense. Ancestor Xianqin, that is, Boss Bai, hadn't died yet. No matter what, it was impossible for Ancestor Xianqin to claim to be the sect head. Because the sect head of the Five Elements sect had been chosen by the previous generation's sect head, it was impossible to change the position at will, unless this person died and his junior brother could replace him. The current situation was that Boss Bai hadn't died yet, so although Ancestor Xianqin was the actual controller of the Five Elements sect, he didn't dare to violate the rules of the Five Elements sect. He was also afraid of challenging Boss Bai's bottom line. In any case, the acting head and the official head were only a matter of title. The power was the same, so Ancestor Xianqin didn't care about this. Oh? So you two are experts from the Five Elements sect. Wait a moment, I'll report this matter to my father. The man in the totem suit naturally knew about the Five Elements sect. As a disciple of the Bubbly clan, he would understand the history of the Bubbly clan's development since he was a child. Among them was the trade with the Central Plains. As the middleman, it was the Five Elements sect, so the Bubbly clan was very friendly to the Five Elements sect. Although the man in the totem suit didn't know them, it didn't affect his deep-rooted thoughts since he was a child. So, his attitude toward the two immediately changed. Well said, well said. Brother, please. Kang Mingming suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that what Ancestor Xianqin said was right. The Bubbly clan was very friendly to the people of the Five Elements sect. Now, from the other party's attitude, it could be seen that at least half of the matter was successful. The man in the totem suit flashed and entered the castle. Kang Mingming and Little Yi didn't follow him. These two people knew their identity. They came to visit the Five Elements sect to ask for help. How could they act rashly? The man in the totem suit directly entered a huge square hall in the castle. Inside the square hall, an old man was sitting on a wooden armchair. He was resting with his eyes closed. When he saw the man in the totem suit coming in, he suddenly opened his eyes and asked, Tortu, who came to visit outside? The man in the totem suit was called Tortu. He was the old man's third son. Father, there are two cultivators from the Central Plains Five Elements sect outside the door. They said that they want to visit our Bubbly clan. Tortu said. Oh? The Central Plains Five Elements sect? The old man's eyebrows twitched. He was somewhat surprised. But then, he nodded and said, Let them come in to see me. Also, call your eldest brother, second brother, and the elders. Yes. Tortu quickly responded. He went out of the square hall and sent a follower to inform his eldest brother, second brother, and the elders. As for himself, he once again returned to the entrance of the castle. "Brother, how is it?" Kang Ming saw that Tortu had returned and quickly asked. "Please come in, my father wants to see you," Tortu said and made an inviting gesture. "All right." Kang Ming and Little E quickly followed behind. In the square hall of the castle, Tortu's eldest brother Tortai, second brother Tor Kang, and the three elders of the Bubbly clan were standing behind Tortu's father, Tori and Moon. Chapter 33-36. I'm Kang Ming from the Five Elements sect in the Central Plains of the East. I'm the son-in-law of our Five Elements sect's acting sect master, Ancestor Xianqin. This is my eldest senior brother, he. Kang Ming introduced himself. Thor Moon looked at Kang Ming and Little E from head to toe. His eyes were like torches, making Kang Ming a little uncomfortable. At this time, Thor Moon suddenly asked, "As far as I know, the current sect master of Five Elements sect is Ancestor Xiantian. How did it become Ancestor Xianqin?" Although the Bubbly clan was in the Outland, it didn't mean that they didn't care about the cultivation sects in the Central Plains. It might not be easy for those cultivation sects to inquire about the Bubbly clan. After all, the Bubbly clan was a closed family. However, it wasn't too difficult for the Bubbly clan to inquire about those cultivation sects. After all, these cultivation sects weren't closed. This Ancestor Xiantian. Because of other matters, he is no longer in Five Elements sect. Our Five Elements sect is now under my father-in-law, Ancestor Xianqin, Kang Ming said vaguely. Oh, Ancestor Xianqin I also know, Thor Moon just casually asked. He was old and experienced. When he heard Kang Ming's tone, he knew that the Five Elements sect might be in discord. But after all, this was an internal matter of Five Elements sect. Thor Moon didn't want to care too much. "Do the two of you have a token?" "Yes, here is a letter written by my father-in-law, Ancestor Xianqin, to your clan. Please have a look, old patriarch." Kang Xiaoming could tell that Thor was the person in charge of the Paoli clan, so he directly handed the letter to him. Tortu didn't let Kang Ming approach Thor Moon. Instead, he handed the letter to Thor Moon. When Thor Moon opened the letter and saw the special communication code between Five Elements sect and Bubbly clan, he finally confirmed the identity of Kang Ming and Little E. The letter didn't say anything, just some greetings. The last thing was that Kang Ming and Little E had something to discuss with Bubbly clan. "Sure enough, a friend from Five Elements sect, have a seat." Thor nodded and gestured with his hand. Tortu promptly moved 2 chairs for Kang Ming and Little One. After they sat down, he stood to the side once again. It looked like the Paoli clan's rules were very strict. Even a peak heaven rank expert like Tortu didn't have a seat in front of the elders. "Thank you very much," Kang Ming and Xiaoyi quickly said. "What's the matter for the two of you to come here from afar?" Thor asked after putting down the letter. "Old clan, we have actually come here with the intention of reaching an agreement with the Paoli clan," Kang Ming said. "What agreement? Let's hear the specifics," Thor asked flatly. Before figuring out whether the matter was beneficial to the Paoli clan, Thor wouldn't easily express his position. "It's like this, in a few days, there may be a cultivator from our Central Plains who will come here to buy your clan's white energy stones. I hope your clan can refuse the transaction." Kang Ming didn't beat around the bush, and directly stated his intention. "Oh? Why is that?" Thor didn't expect Kang Ming to put forward such a request. Of course, he didn't rush to express his position, and just asked the question. "I won't say much about the specific reason, we are sworn enemies. Of course, in return, we can give some benefits, such as some cultivation resources, treasures and so on." Kang Xiaoming changed the topic and continued. "Of course, if your noble family is willing to help us kill this person, we can provide even greater benefits. For example, we can specially refine some rare medicinal pills for your noble family." I believe Old Patriarch is also aware of our 5 elements sex elixir refining technology. Oh? Thor Ryu was really interested in elixirs. He knew his clan well. Because of cultivation deviation, he tried to forcibly attack the Heaven's Way, but failed. His meridians were broken, and he became a cripple. If he could take a top-grade 4th-grade great revitalizing pill, then he could recover. Nothing could be more painful for a cultivator than this, and he was still the patriarch of the Paoli clan. Although he lost his strength, his son and the elders didn't disrespect him. But the more it was like this, the more uncomfortable he felt in his heart. How could a cripple with no strength be respected by others? Therefore, all these years, his only thought was to find a way to recover as soon as possible, so that he wouldn't miss the future Heaven Step Island plan. He regretted it now. If he wasn't so anxious to attack the Heaven's Way, he wouldn't have become like this. And the arrival of Kong Ning Ning gave him a glimmer of hope. Although the hope wasn't big, he could still try. Besides, even if Kong Ning Ning didn't say anything about white energy stones, Thor Ryu wouldn't trade them with others. There weren't many white energy stones left, and the Paoli clan wanted to keep them for their own use. It was impossible to exchange them for others. As for killing Kong Ning Ning's sworn enemy, it would depend on Kong Ning Ning's sincerity and the difficulty of this matter. What grade of elixir can you refine? Thor Ryu asked calmly. Moreover, isn't the best alchemist in your 5 elements sect Old Ancestor Mysterious Sky? Isn't he the current pill god? It seems that there should be some conflict within your 5 elements sect, right? Can you still let him refine elixirs for you? Old Ancestor Mysterious Sky is a thing of the past, don't mention it. Kong Ning Ning obviously didn't want to talk too much about Boss Bai, so he said, Old Patriarch, you may not understand, but the best alchemist in our 5 elements sect is my second martial uncle Old Ancestor Mysterious Sky. He can refine 3rd-grade elixirs with ease, and he is now in seclusion to become a higher-level alchemist. 4th-grade elixirs are just around the corner. 4th-grade elixirs are just around the corner? Thor Ryu's eyes lit up slightly. If he could really refine 4th-grade elixirs, then his injuries could really be cured. Thinking of this, Thor Ryu asked, If you can refine a top-grade 4th-grade great recovery pill for me, then we can consider agreeing to your request. Thor Ryu's words made the other Paoli clan members present a little excited. Yes, if they could really get a top-grade 4th-grade great recovery pill, then this deal could be done no matter how difficult it was. Chapter 33-37. And I have heard of Xianjun Ancestor, an alchemist second only to Xian Tian Ancestor. Thor Ryu nodded. Xian Tian Ancestor has been crippled, his meridians are broken, how can he be compared to my second martial uncle? Kong Ning Ning quickly said, dispelling the idea of Thor Ryu looking for Xian Tian Ancestor. He wanted to confirm this matter. In fact, Kong Ning Ning's words were just drawing a big cake to attract the Bubbly clan. How could Kong Ning Ning not know the level of Xianjun Ancestor? He had tried to break through to the 4th-grade alchemist several times and failed. How could a 4th-grade pill be so easy to refine? But Kong Ning Ning's promise didn't violate anything. When we can refine it, we will definitely refine it for you first, but now we can't, so you can only wait, right? Therefore, Kong Ning Ning can make the decision himself and agree to this matter. Oh, then tell me, why didn't you kill your enemy yourself, but let us do it? Thor Ryu asked. If I'm not mistaken, the strength of the two of you shouldn't be low, right? Your 5-element sect should have a lot of experts. Why do you want us to do it? Thor Ryu must figure this out. Is there something fishy about it? In fact, it's not a big reason, it's just that this person can die, but he can't die in the hands of our 5-elements sect. When Kong Ning Ning said until here, he lowered his voice and said, The plan of the heavenly law. Old Patriarch knows about it, right? Our 5-elements sect is now preparing for it. We don't want to complicate matters. Dying in the hands of the foreign people and dying in our hands will bring different results. Kong Jiaoming's words were tantamount to not saying anything. This reason was a bit too vague. However, when Thor Ryu heard that it was related to the Heaven Step Island project, he didn't ask any more. In any case, killing a person in Paoli clan's territory wasn't a big deal. Although they might become enemies, Bubbly clan was not afraid of becoming enemies. Their strength was there. Moreover, even if they become enemies, Thor-Ryu wanted to recover. What is the strength of that person? When will he come? Thor-Ryu asked. That person's current strength is at the middle phase of Sky class, but he has some ability. He can fight someone stronger than him. Old Master, you must be prepared, Kong Laoming said. As for killing a peak heaven rank late stage expert, Kong Ming, he didn't say it. He was afraid that the clan wouldn't do it. After all, peak heaven realm peak late stage expert wouldn't dare to say they could kill a peak stage expert. But Kong Ming also reminded them that Lin Yi was very powerful and could fight enemies above his rank. When the time comes, the Bubbly clan would suffer a loss, but they couldn't blame Kong Ming. Kong Ming reminded them in advance, but they didn't take it to heart. Moreover, Kong Ming was a bad person. He actually wanted Lin Yi to injure or kill a member of the Bubbly clan. Then, Lin Yi and the Bubbly clan would become mortal enemies. At that time, there would be no need for Kong Ming to say anything. The Bubbly clan would do their best to keep Lin Yi here. Kong Ming was a person who could scheme against anyone. Mid-heaven rank? Thor-Ryu let out a sigh of relief when he heard Lin Yi's strength level. A person with such strength coming to the Paoli clan was basically a one-way trip. Thor-Ryu didn't even think about it before agreeing. No problem, I can help you get rid of this person, but you have to honor the pill you promised me. It wasn't that Thor-Ryu was arrogant, it was because no peak late stage heaven rank great perfection expert would be afraid of Lin Yi's strength. Moreover, although the Bubbly clan had some understanding of the Central Plains cultivation world, they didn't know everything. Lin Yi had only appeared in the past year, and he had only appeared in the past few months. It was normal that the Bubbly clan didn't know about it. Rest assured, if the old patriarch really helps us get rid of this person, then as long as my second uncle successfully becomes a fourth-grade alchemist, he will be the first to refine a pill for your clan. Kong Ming patted his chest and guaranteed. Of course, his underlying meaning was that if you don't get rid of Lin Yi, or if my second uncle doesn't successfully become a fourth-grade alchemist, then you can't blame us. Naturally, for Kong Ming's underlying meaning, Thor-Ryu could also hear it, but it was the latter. He didn't think that Kong Ming would think that they couldn't get rid of a mid-heaven rank expert. This was clearly impossible. As for the latter, Thor-Ryu also knew that everything had its risks. Xianjin Ancestor was now a third-grade alchemist, who could guarantee that he wouldn't become a fourth-grade alchemist in the future. It seems to be just an ethereal promise, but one must know that Xianjin Ancestor must be constantly working hard. Only he himself wants to become a fourth-grade alchemist, who doesn't want to improve their strength. So this matter is still very hopeful. Moreover, now Thor-Ryu has no other hope. As long as there is a glimmer of hope, he doesn't want to give up, not to mention that this hope is still very likely to be realized. Well, leave this matter to me. You give me this person's appearance, then Tortu, you take these two guests to rest and wait for the news. Thor-Ryu said. Yes, father, Tortu responded. Kong Ming readily agreed. Even if Thor-Ryu didn't ask them to stay as guests, they would wait here and watch Lin Yi being killed, so naturally, they left with Tortu. At the same time, Kong Ming also sent Lin Yi's photo to Tortu for his reference. Tortu glanced at it, and didn't care much at all. After sending Kong Ming and Little E to the guest room, he returned to the square hall. Father, the two guests have been arranged to rest, Tortu said. This time. Can 5 Elements sect really help us refine elixirs? I don't know, but there is always hope. It's good that there is hope. I didn't even have hope before. Thor-Ryu looked very happy. It's just, this time, for my own sake, I can't bear to kill an innocent person who came here to trade. Yes, I'm afraid that they came here to trade with us. Even if we don't trade with them, we can't just kill them. Tortu also had a gloomy expression. Their Paoli clan is not the kind of clan that likes to invade others. Chapter 33-38. This Tortu hesitated after listening to him. I don't think so, right? So what we are doing is just to help those wronged souls get justice. In fact, Tortu didn't know that the people who died under Lin Yi's hands were people who deserved to die. There were no wronged souls. That's right, then leave this matter to me. I can still deal with a middle stage heaven stage master. Tortu volunteered. Okay, you are on duty this month, so I will leave this person to you. Have you got the photo? Tortu asked. And I got it. Tortu nodded and said, I will also pay attention these days. In the guest room of the Bubbly clan, Little One looked at Kong Ming and asked with some confusion. Junior brother Kong, why don't you tell the people of the Bubbly clan that Lin Yi is very powerful? Even a great perfection master may not be his opponent. What if they fail? He fail? I'm not afraid of him failing, I'm afraid that he won't fail. Kong Ming smiled and said, Senior brother, I'm afraid you don't understand why I'm doing this. But think about it, if Lin Yi kills or cripples one of the people of the Bubbly clan, wouldn't they become mortal enemies? Why does our Five Elements sect want to kill Lin Yi so much? Isn't it because our people have suffered heavy casualties in his hands? That's right. Little One patted his head and suddenly realized. Junior brother Kong, I didn't expect you to be so resourceful. No wonder Master likes you and relies on you. Ha! This is all a conspiracy, it's nothing. Kong Ming waved his hand. He smiled and said indifferently, No matter what, if we can kill Lin Yi this time, you and I will have done a great service, and we will also get justice for our juniors. Little One nodded. At this time, Lin Yi's car was slowly approaching the Hakunamata Desert. Mr. Lin, the Hakunamata Desert is just up ahead. Should we go to the Bali tribe first or return to my home first? Udake asked. Although he was eager to return home, but he had to seek Lin Yi's opinion first. Let's go to your house to have a look first. After all, we'll be looking for the Bubbly clan. As for your house, we can just go there directly. Lin Yi said. Thank you, Mr. Lin. Udake was pleasantly surprised and quickly said. Since the route was decided, Lin Yi naturally closed his eyes to rest. He asked Udake to drive himself. In fact, Udake's home was not in the Hakunamata Desert, but at the edge. There was a small town at the edge of the desert, and the Yu family was a prominent family in this small town. However, this was something that happened more than 10 years ago. The residents here had long forgotten about the Yu family. After all, the Yu family was just a big family to outsiders. How would these ordinary people know about cultivators? So, when other families appeared, it was only natural that they replaced the Yu family's position in the secular world. I haven't been here for more than 10 years. The town has really changed a lot. Udake saw that the town had begun to move towards modernization. Cars were also often seen, and he couldn't help but feel emotional. One had to know that when he was a child, the main means of transportation here were horses and camels. Yu Xiaoka also widened her eyes, curiously looking at the customs here. She was too young to remember anything, and she had no impression of this town at all. They came all the way to a manor where Udake's Yu family used to be. But what made Udake a little strange was that this manor looked very neat and tidy. It didn't look like a dilapidated manor that had been abandoned for more than 10 years. How was this possible? Although the Yu family used to give alms to the poor people in the town, and they also spontaneously helped the Yu family to clean the manor regularly when the Yu family was in ruins, it was definitely not as simple as cleaning. No one could clean it for more than 10 years. The Yu family was gone, so what was there to clean? Moreover, the deeper they went, the more they could see that this manor had been repaired. What are the three of you doing? This is private property, trespassers will die. Just when Udake was feeling a little strange, a group of men in black suddenly rushed over and surrounded the three of them. In fact, when these people appeared, Lin Yi had already sensed it, but he didn't understand the situation here, so he didn't make a move and planned to see what was going on. After all, in Lin Yi's eyes, these people were just small characters, and the leader was only a mystic class master. Who are you? What are you doing here? Udake was stunned. This was his home. Why was there a group of outsiders here? However, Lin Yi's golden finger could see the strength of this leader, but Udake didn't have a golden finger, so naturally, he couldn't see it. This is the Gu family's manor, and I am the chief guard here, the leader said proudly. Looking at you, you're not from this town, right? Leave this place quickly, and I will let bygones be bygones, or else, don't leave. Gu family? Udake had never heard of this Gu family, and he was stunned. You're talking big, aren't you? Gu family's territory? This is clearly my Yu family's manor. How did it become the Gu family's? What Yu family? Kid, I think you're here to cause trouble, right? The chief guard had never heard of the Yu family, so he instinctively thought that Udake was here to cause trouble. Cause trouble? Udake frowned. Who is the person in charge here? Ask him to come out and see me. This is clearly my family's place. How could it be forcefully occupied? Udake wasn't worried about the house now, but whether the secret room had been discovered or not. There were some ancient books of the Yu family hidden in it. Lin Yi finally understood what was going on. Udake's house had been taken over by someone. Although Udake's house had been empty for more than 10 years, it was still unreasonable to say that it was directly occupied like this. Of course, Lin Yi didn't force it. If the other party gave up this place after a negotiation, then Lin Yi couldn't do anything to them. Lin Yi was also reasonable. He wouldn't simply hurt people. I think you're here to cause trouble. You still want to see our old master Gu? That's wishful thinking. The chief guard snorted disdainfully. Kid, don't tell me I didn't warn you. If you don't leave, I will kill you. Do you believe me? Do you know that in this town, our Gu family has the final say? Chapter 33-39. It was obvious that these people had taken advantage of his absence to forcibly occupy this ownerless land. Of course, Udake didn't blame them. As long as they were willing to give up and leave behind the things in their homes, Udake really didn't need to be calculative with them. But this person's attitude obviously made Udake very angry. You occupied someone else's place, and you're still in the right? Kill me? I really don't believe it, Udake said coldly. Although he wasn't much in the ancient world, in this mortal world, he didn't believe that anyone would dare to act like a tyrant over his head. Since you don't believe it, then I'll fulfill your wish. The head guard was also very annoyed. Since this person wanted to die, then let him die. As he said that, he grabbed towards Udake. The aura of a cultivator on his body was also revealed at this moment. Of course, he didn't use too much strength. After all, in his opinion, Udake was just a small character in the mortal world. Wouldn't he be turned into ashes with a wave of his hand? Mystic Late Phase Peak Master? I didn't expect you to be a cultivator? Udake was shocked. He thought that this place was occupied by some rich merchant in the mortal world, but he didn't expect that it was a cultivator. Could it be that these people had something to do with the annihilation of his family? Udake couldn't be blamed for thinking too much. In fact, in the mortal world, cultivators were very rare. Although Udake usually met cultivators, it was also because he stood on a different level. This was because a rich person would definitely have a lot of rich friends around him, and a beggar basically only knew beggars and vagrants. This was the problem of social circle. However, suddenly encountering a cultivator here made Udake vigilant. Oh? You know cultivators? The head guard's face changed. He didn't expect that the person who came could actually see through his strength. But he didn't think it was a big deal. In his opinion, his strength in the mortal world was quite amazing. He didn't stop, but instead increased the strength of his fist. Humph! Udake snorted coldly. He didn't dodge and directly punched towards the head guard's fist. He was a late-phase peak Earth-class cultivator. Although he was weaker than Lin Yi, he could still suppress the head guard. Boom! The two fists collided. Udake stood unscathed on the spot, while the head guard was sent flying backward, blood spurting out of his mouth. His entire body fell onto the wall of the manor's entrance, and he was in a daze. Udake did not want to kill him, nor did he use any martial techniques. However, the simple head-on collision had already caused the head guard to suffer extremely serious internal injuries. But he wouldn't die. You're an Earth-class late-phase peak? What are you doing here? You actually dared to injure me. Although the head guard was questioning Udake, his voice was clearly a little fierce. Me what? I'll spare your dog life. Go in and inform the people who can speak to me. Udake snorted coldly. Obviously, he was already very angry. If it was anyone else who had their home forcefully occupied and was unreasonable, they wouldn't feel comfortable either. Just you wait. Just you wait. The head guard was the strongest among the guards. Now that he was beaten up, the others naturally didn't dare to step forward. At this time, they all came over and helped the head guard up. They walked into the manor. In the manor's castle, Old Man Gu was having his breakfast. Under normal circumstances, no one would disturb him when he was eating, not even his descendants and disciples. But at this time, the head guard was quickly hobbling into the dining hall with the help of the younger guards. Who is it? Don't you know that I don't like to be disturbed when I'm eating? Old Man Gu heard the footsteps at the door and immediately shouted in annoyance. Old Man Gu, it's not good. Someone came looking for trouble and beat me up like this. Old Man Gu, I'm your disciple, you have to avenge me. The head guard still didn't know that there was no hope for him. He still wanted to get back at Old Man Gu. What? Old Man Gu was shocked when he saw the head guard's pitiful state. He stood up abruptly and asked, Who beat you up like this? You're a mystic late-phase peak master, could it be that this person is stronger than you? Yes, it's an Earth-class late-phase peak master. I'm definitely not his match, so only you can do it yourself, Old Man Gu. The head guard said sorrowfully. Humph. You stay here and inform the rest of our people. I'll go take a look myself. I don't believe that there's still someone who dares to cause trouble in my Gu family's manor. Do they want to die? Old Man Gu slammed the table and said angrily. Yes, Old Man Gu. The head guard quickly replied. After Old Man Gu left, he quickly sent the other guards to inform the rest of the Gu family to support them. As for himself, he went out with the help of another guard. He wanted to see with his own eyes how Udake would be taught a lesson. Old Master Gu took the lead and rushed out of the manor. When he saw Udake and the other two standing at the entrance of the manor, his eyes were about to spit fire. They actually dared to behave atrociously in front of the Gu family's door. Were they tired of living? Who injured my Gu family's disciple just now? Come out and tell me the reason, and I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, I'll make sure you die a slow death. Old Man Gu roared. After saying that, Old Man Gu revealed his domineering strength as a late-stage heaven mage. His strength was his greatest reliance. After all, let alone the secular world, this kind of strength would make him an extremely powerful existence even in an ancient sect. Old Man Gu's strength made Udake a little timid. He subconsciously took 2 steps back, but Lin Yi patted his shoulder to calm him down. With Lin Yi's encouragement, Udake felt more confident. He took a deep breath and said, I'm Udake. This is the place where the Yu family has lived for generations. Who are you people? You took my family by force, and wanted to kill me. If I didn't have some strength, would I be dead now? Yu family? Old Man Gu paused, then seemed to remember something. You're from the Yu family? Wasn't your family exterminated back then? Could it be that there were fish that escaped the net? Looking at your age, you should be a descendant of the Yu family? Chapter 3340. Haha! Since you're here today, you won't be able to leave. I'm not afraid to tell you that your Yu family was destroyed by my master back then. Old Gu didn't hide it and laughed coldly. Since you're a survivor, then die. Udake wanted to ask more questions, but he saw Old Master Gu's fist flying towards him. Lin Yi frowned slightly. He wanted to wait for Udake to say a few more words before killing this old Gu, but he didn't expect that this person would attack right away. It made Lin Yi feel helpless, but Linny was also decisive. He used the 11th form of the Frenzy 8 trigrams palm and slapped it at Old Goo from the side. Old Goo's attention was on Udake, and he didn't pay attention to Linny and Yoshioka. He thought that they were Udake's friends. From his perspective, these two wouldn't be very powerful. After all, if they were Udake's friends, they would be very arrogant. It wouldn't be two youngsters. Old Goo's heart was pounding. Moreover, this Udake obviously didn't know that he and his master were his enemies. He only found out about it from Old Goo's mouth after coming here, so it was obvious that he wasn't here for revenge. Hence, Old Goo didn't care about Linny at all. This caused Lin Yi's sudden attack to catch him off guard. Old Goo didn't even get a chance to hit Udake before Lin Yi sent him flying with a single move. Old Goo was about to hit someone, so why would he use Chi to protect himself? As for Lin Yi, the 11th form of the Frenzy 8 trigrams palm had a 50-50 chance of killing a peak late-phase Sky Class Master, but it was easy for him to kill a late-phase Sky Class Master. Even without the Jade's buff, he still managed to kill Elder Goo in one hit. At the same time, when Linny sent Old Master Goo flying, the members of the Goo family walked out of the manor. They were there to cheer, but the scene in front of them left them dumbfounded. Old Master Goo, who they thought was superior and powerful, was sent flying while vomiting blood. However, none of them dared to act rashly. They knew that they couldn't afford to offend someone who could beat up Old Master Goo to such a state. You! The head guard originally wanted to see Old Master Goo fight for him, but he didn't expect to see Old Master Goo repeat the same mistake and fly out with blood spurting out of his mouth just like he did just now. However, Old Master Goo was even more miserable than him. After he was sent flying, he twitched twice and stopped moving. It was obvious that he was dead. Father! Two men who looked similar to Old Master Goo ran over to his corpse and wailed mournfully. Who is your father's master? Who destroyed the Yu family back then? Were you involved? Linny looked at the two men and asked. We don't know. The two men were obviously cowards, or rather, they were frightened by Linny and didn't dare to resist Linny. How could our family be involved? My father just found a great backer from the Chinese plains. We're just here as their eyes. As for our master's identity, we don't know. Don't kill us, great swordsman. I'm sorry, this is your place. We'll move now, just don't kill us. It seemed that the two sons of Old Master Goo were cowards. They had been scared silly by Linny. They spilled out everything they knew, not daring to hide anything. Oh? Do you know the name of your master? Asked Linny with a frown. We don't know this. Our master didn't tell me. Sun Goo said with a bitter face. Our Goo family was just a small family back then. Maybe young Master Yu doesn't have an impression. When the master destroyed the Yu family, our family just happened to move here. My father was more clever and got close to them, so he became their eyes. He received some cultivation resources regularly. As for who they were, we didn't dare to ask. Is that so? Is there no clue at all? Linny frowned and asked. How did you contact them? They contacted us on their own initiative. We don't have their contact information, and the cultivation resources were mailed. Said Sun Goo. What you said is nonsense. It's not enough to save your lives. Lin Yi knew that if he didn't intimidate these people, they wouldn't be able to say anything useful without pressure. Don't. There is one more important thing. Sun Goo threw caution to the wind at this time. Although the other party asked them to keep this matter a secret, they couldn't keep it a secret anymore. Anyway, they would leave this place after they finished talking. It was impossible to cross paths with those people again. It was more important to save their lives. Say it. Linny said coldly. It's like this. Master sent 2 messengers a few days ago. They rested with us for a night and left. Sun Goo said, We don't know their names. My father received these 2 people personally. We didn't even get to talk to them. We don't even know what they look like. However, what we know is that they asked my father about the location of the Bubbly clan. If I'm not mistaken, they should have gone to the Bubbly clan. If you can find these two people, then there might be clues. In the beginning, these two people threatened the Gu family. They couldn't say their whereabouts and things that happened. Otherwise, they would destroy the Gu family. However, even if they didn't say it now, they would still destroy the Gu family. It was better to say it first. At least they could delay their death. Therefore, he spat out everything. Oh? Two people came? They went to the Bubbly clan? Even if Lin Yi was a very calm person, a wisp of surprise and disbelief couldn't help but flash on his face at this moment. He didn't expect that it would be such a coincidence. However, what relationship did these two people have with the Bubbly clan? Was it because they had a close relationship, or… This made Lin Yi's mind a little messed up. He was going to trade with the Bubbly clan this time, and to put it bluntly, he was asking for their help. But now, two more enemies of Udake had appeared. Chapter 33:41. Yes. But we don't know what they are going to do. Our family is only a marginal servant, we just happened to get close to them, so… Don't make things difficult for us. My father is the mastermind, he is already dead, we juniors don't know anything. Gu's son begged with a sullen face. Oh, leave behind the map of the Throwingly clan and then scram. You are not allowed to take anything from here. Lin Yi waved his hand and said, Yes. We won't take it, just take our lives. Gu's son promptly replied, I have the coordinates of the Bubbly clan, you only need to input it into the navigator. When these people saw that old man Gu was already dead, they naturally did not have any backbone to resist. One by one, they fled the place in a panic. The originally bustling manor suddenly became empty. After watching these people leave, Lin Yi turned to Udake and said, You don't blame me for letting these people go without permission, right? Many of these people are small characters, there is no point in killing them. No, what happened back then has nothing to do with them. These people are just lackeys who curry favor with those in power. Old man Gu's death can be considered to have vented the anger of them forcibly occupying the ancestral house. Udake shook his head. Moreover, I still have to thank Mr. Lin for today's matter. If not for you, I'm afraid the one lying on the ground would have been me. But it seems that the rumors are true. Mr. Lin can instantly kill a peak heaven rank late stage expert. Haha. Lin Yi smiled and didn't say much, he only said, Find what you need, then we'll go to the Bubbly clan. If we can meet those two, we might be able to take revenge in passing, otherwise, if we go too late and they leave, we won't have any clues. Udake was surprised and happy. Lin Yi's words proved that Lin Yi would take care of this matter. If Lin Yi intervened, then it shouldn't be difficult to solve this matter. After all, Lin Yi had killed a heaven-rank late-stage expert. What kind of strength was that? Therefore, Udake quickly thanked him. Thank you, Mr. Lin! Looking at her brother's expression, Yu Xiaoke frowned but didn't say anything. Why was Lin Yi trying to please her family? Xiaoke felt uneasy. She was thinking too much. Lin Yi had helped a lot of people, and sometimes he didn't have a goal in mind. But Xiaoke's first impression, she thought that he was trying to please her. But even so, Xiaoke was helpless. Lin Yi was getting stronger and stronger, and she could only rely on Lin Yi for revenge. However, now that he had gotten his revenge, how would he choose? Xiaoke's headache was getting worse. Udake led the way. He didn't even glance at some of the antiques and paintings in the castle. These things were priceless in the eyes of the secular world, but for cultivators, these were dispensable things. What they cared about were cultivation resources and their own strength. Under Udake's lead, the three came to the basement of the castle. After going down, they realized that the basement was filled with junk. It was a mess of useless things. This used to be House Yu's warehouse, and after House Gu took over, they used it as a warehouse and didn't use it. So Udake saw this situation and let out a sigh of relief. Udake came to a corner of the warehouse. On the wall, there was a tattered painting. After seeing the painting, Udake's face became serious. He walked forward and carefully took the painting down. Behind the painting, there was a password-like mechanism. There was a group of strange characters on it, and each character could be pressed. It seemed that they had to be pressed in order to unlock the mechanism. This was an inconspicuous corner, and it was in the warehouse. It seemed that no one from House Goo studied this place carefully. They probably didn't even bother to touch these tattered paintings. Udake carefully pressed a set of password code. The password code was very long, and no one knew how Udake remembered it. One had to know that he was only a few years old when the accident happened. But maybe he got some kind of log or something. Rumble. After the password code was correct, the mechanism began to activate. The originally flat ground suddenly began to sink. It turned out that this was an elevator, just like the stone coffin in the ancient tomb. The three of them followed the ground and landed on the next floor of the basement. It turned out that there was a hidden space beneath the basement. It seems like House Goo didn't discover this place. Udake looked at the things in front of him happily. On the first floor, there was a large storeroom. It was like a supermarket, with rows of shelves. Perhaps the cultivation resources and books of the Yu family were placed on top of them. Udake came to the innermost bookshelf with ease. He stretched out his hand and took out a thin booklet. He smiled and said, "Xiaoke, it's done. It's here." Oh? Xiaoke was happy. After all, she was looking forward to increasing her strength. After all, she was weak and had been in danger many times. If it wasn't for the male thief's help, she wouldn't be standing here alive. "You was heaven patching art?" Xiaoke was shocked by the name of the art. This name was quite strong, and it sounded very domineering. She didn't know if it was just a bluff or if it was real. "Yes, this is the secret art of House Yu, but only girls can practice it." "I can't," Udake said. "Then, I can practice it?" Xiaoke opened the manual expectantly, but she was a physical practitioner and had never come into contact with spiritual practitioners before. Her family and sect didn't teach her anything about spiritual practitioners either, so she didn't know where to start. "But I don't know anything about spiritual practitioners," Linny said with a smile. "I don't know anything about spiritual practitioners. It's actually not that hard," Dake said as he told Xiaoke about the spiritual practitioner's training method. "So troublesome." Xiaoke felt a headache coming on. She couldn't sleep at night? She had to meditate? Wasn't it tiring? It'd be great if Linny could level up his strength. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.